Welcome back, everybody, to For the Win! We don't have a regular session for you tonight. I know you're thinking, but you left at the climax of the final moment. How could you? Well, we told you. If you stuck to the end, we told you we weren't going to be playing this week. It wasn't about that. Scott's not here. We can't finish without him. Yeah, we started without him, but we're not going to finish without him. So
you hear that? Nick can't finish without Scott.
None of us can. None of us can. We need his presence, his reassurance,
actively edging you,
his occasional heals.
Yep, those heals are important.
And his tasty smites. So, what are we doing this week, gang? Well, let's start by saying who we are. I'm your normal dungeon master, but tonight, kind of a master of ceremonies. And we've got these three bozos. They can tell you who they are.
Rude.
The silence. Hi, I'm Snap.
I was so used to him calling us out, like I was waiting.
Yeah.
I was legitimately waiting too.
It's very typical tonight, so we're doing things a little bit differently.
Hi, I'm Matilda.
Hi, I'm Ruby. And our
That's
character
us.
names are here instead of our actual names. So if you know our characters, you also
I play
know who we are.
Sisu.
Yep, I play Inyo.
I play Woe for now.
I was going to say, for all of those are for now.
We're probably gonna die, guys.
Hey,
Well,
I mean,
maybe.
predictions?
Probably.
poll?
Who's to say? What is death? But also part of it is for now because as you've pieced together and as we've told you directly, we are at the very end of our campaign here. So very soon, our wonderful adventurers are going to be adopting new persona, and you'll get to meet and fall in love with 4 new folks, and hopefully they won't die in the first couple of sessions. You know, no guarantees, but we'll see how things go. So
we will.
We have our plot armor.
We have a 5-session guarantee.
Okay, so
Yeah, I was gonna
just
say.
make sure you're not doing dumb shit then.
Oh,
I'm
we're
not saying
gonna
that
do dumb
you-
shit. Stream.
Us?
Dumb shit
Us?
will happen.
Never.
What?
Yeah.
Never.
Mm-hmm.
So what are we doing here tonight? Well, a few weeks ago, months ago, how long ago was it? I don't know. It feels like forever. Some of you met and discussed the new set of books, particularly the Players Handbook, because it had just come out. But I wasn't there, and I had so much to say, and you all didn't really have access to the books still at that point. It was just kind of looking up a listicle and hearsay and secondhand information on what had changed. But at least 2 of us have the physical books, and I know I've poured through, I've taken notes, I've got ideas, I've got thoughts. We've also recently got the drop of the Dungeon Master's Guide, which I don't know if any of you have the new books, but just look at the difference between the 2014 and the 2024.
I love Nick's holding up the difference and Snatch over here. Mine's still in the box, guys.
I just want to pause there. If you think that I physically read the Player's Handbook or DMG from the 2014
Oh God,
movies
no.
instead of just
No.
looking them up online. So
Certainly not.
Yeah. I'm right there with her, 100% on that.
And that's the beautiful thing about being a player in D&D is that you realistically have to know very few rules to be a player.
Nick, I have DM'd multiple times in the past 10 years.
I
still not picked up the physical DMG.
Oh, and that's fair, yeah, because you can find everything on D&D Wiki. And RPG Bot is a great guide.
And tried to read the book before I DM'd, and then I just winged it. And I killed 2 of my players. It was great, guys.
You sure did. But I despite the fact that we play in a technological digital form, I am when it comes to books, I don't like digital. It doesn't do it for me. I like the feel of a book.
Do you have a trophy shelf?
We have books scattered throughout our
Are you a
apartment.
tchotchke guy?
Are y'all very much a literary family with tons of books just randomly around the whole place?
Here's the thing. Even though I am an English teacher, my wife reads way more than I do. I spend my free time on D&D.
Doing this.
So
Hey, we love you for it. We love you for it.
Thank you.
So I'd say I read a bit, but I write a lot more. And isn't that the truth? And now it's also drawing maps and making tokens and all that good stuff. So we're going to do a
thing. You guys will get to hear a little bit about it.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about some of those changes because, plot twist, we are going to be implementing mostly the 2024 rule set in our new campaign, which at the end tonight, we're going to give you some information about our new world. So stay tuned, if you want to hear what the world of Wyrdgard is like. But before we get to that, let's talk about D&D. And prior to the release of the new rules, what were things that in the rules as presented, as written, that you either loved or didn't love? Like, for example, I hate in 2014 surprise. I think it's so nebulous and arbitrary, and it's not clearly defined how surprise works, whereas in the 2024 version, it is much more concrete of how surprise functions.
I have to go check how 2024 defines surprise.
I don't feel we've never used surprise though, right, Nick? In our campaign, surprise was not something you adapted to what we were doing.
That feels.
We didn't always have a surprise round if we were doing
so. Surprise is something that's, from my understanding, was much more codified in earlier editions. I've only played 5th editions. I don't know. This is what I've read, though. Whereas in 5th edition, like we can find where it talks about surprise rounds or being surprised. But I mean, there's blogs on blogs of people writing about how do I interpret surprise in 5th edition and how do I run it at my tables, because it's not something that was
This is
clearly
one of those contention
hammered out.
points in D&D that I feel like is something that either I am drastically misunderstanding or everyone is taking really far out of context, because it doesn't feel that complicated to me. In 5th edition, before in the 2014 rules, surprise felt like yes, it was a little bit of the DM decides when surprise applies situationally, but then it doesn't feel that complicated. Like, okay, everyone rolls, and then whoever is surprised, you just skip their turn in the round.
But you have
doesn't
to
feel that hard.
But you have to arbitrarily decide who is surprised and who's not.
Sure.
And there's
that's part of the
10,000
game.
But there's 10,000 factors. Like, okay, do we have everybody roll a stealth check? Is it just the first person that popped off that first attack that tried to do a sneak attack?
I mean, sure, but that
attack.
can apply to every single part of combat, though. Like, okay, we're rolling for the enemies. Am I rolling for this whole class as a group or every single individual enemy?
Ooh,
like,
and that is something else that in the 2024 edition is laid out how that ought to be handled. And so, as a dungeon master, I appreciate. Yeah, we can deviate from the rules and we can put our own spin on things, but I think when the core rule can simplify as much as possible and make it as articulate as possible, that's always an advantage. So the 2024 rules for surprise are as follows. Basically, let me find we can say the words, right? Yeah. Let's see, what does it say?
if a combatant is surprised by combat,
they get advantage or disadvantage. Yeah. They get disadvantage on their initiative. So they're not taken out for an entire round, which is devastating potentially, like because if the game is we are a group of sneaky people who sneak around constantly and we just have like our ranged attacks always at the ready,
The
we get a
surprise
free
round.
round every turn, and we have an assassin in the group, so they're critting the shit out of everything. And the response is, well, the dungeon master needs to counter that with more
No, not
alert
even
people.
that.
But
But arguably, like having disadvantage on the initiative roll, you're gonna get the same effect. The surprise creatures are gonna be lower in the initiative, and it's
skipped.
gonna clump
But
together.
they're still in the initiative.
I don't.
So, like, I played Curse of Strahd, and that's literally what we did with every combat encounter we could come across. We would try and get a surprise round on it, because not only that, but most of us had high dex, so we would get our surprise round, and then the majority of us would be in the front of the initiative well. So we would get like 2 rounds before they got a round in.
But making it a disadvantage on the initiative roll versus a free round and the standard initiative roll makes it the surprise effect impacts the entire combat versus just one round.
But once you're in the initiative order, like once you've gone through one round, it's the field has then been leveled.
Yeah, but you were talking about if a party's sneaky and they're trying to surprise, like they have their moves planned. So if they have moves planned and then you're gonna get it, they're gonna have disadvantage on initiative. Like your party's likely going to be clumped together at the beginning of initiative. So you're gonna have that same chance to do your moves and do your surprise stuff, but it's gonna happen every round instead of just one.
See, that's where I think I have just a fundamental disagreement that 2 rounds with a party of 4 to 6 is, unless there is a absolute swarm of enemies, that's going to eliminate most.
But it's really only one round guaranteed. Like you could roll initiative and all of the enemies could be at the top, but you get a surprise round and then they get a turn.
So then let me ask, as it was not something you liked as a DM.
Yeah.
Will you take the new surprise, which seems to be that causes to have a disadvantage on its initiative roll if it's established that surprise is there? Is that something you're thinking of adding to our next campaign? Because I know that's not really something we've ever really used. I mean, we've had sneak,
we're planning on doing the entire new rule set for the next campaign.
Yes, and that's because
that's part of this.
Easily adjudicated, especially because the text for surprised is if a creature is caught unawares by the start of combat, right? So that is much more, because like before it was you look at their passive perception versus
so how do you define unawares without passive perception?
So I suppose there is still some judgment call there.
It's the same thing, it's just changing the round order,
which I still think it is a change for the better, and I will die on that hill.
If you
That's
don't,
fair.
if you don't think of it just for the party versus like an individual enemy, you think of it as multiple enemies against the party. Because like say taking a long rest and we get surrounded by like 10 people and they catch us in a surprise round, that's a hell of a lot of damage before we even are in initiative, if that makes sense. So it makes it more fair on both ends. And as a player who has abused the fuck out of that, I can understand why.
Disagree with that interpretation of the rule, because you are in initiative regardless of what you roll in a surprise round. You get one skip, but you are in initiative. So you can roll a 20 and be at the top of initiative. You get skipped the first round, but you get to go first that next round.
But also then the problem that also creates is the metagaming of like, okay, the big bad of the group, they rolled a 20 or they rolled the 19. We got this surprise round, so we're gonna focus all of our fire on that one enemy that's at the high initiative. Whereas we might not have done that. Maybe it's not even the big bad. Maybe it's the minion or the secondary, and so. It's just something that I've never enjoyed.
Like that is true about any combat that you can see the initiative order on.
Yes, but when you get a whole round of acting before they get to do anything is where it. And then that's not to mention that with acting freely like that, you got a monk that goes in there and stunning strikes. Now they've lost a second turn. You've got some other status effect that you apply to them before they can do shit, and it's just it creates this cascading potential that I don't love. And I'm glad for the fact that because it goes both ways. Now players aren't losing a turn if a DM is like, haha, fuck you, you're surprised. You still get to act. It's just,
well, yeah, you're not losing a turn. You're just most likely going to be at the bottom of the initiative order.
I feel like it also makes it just
unless you
easier.
have like alert,
Sure, but that was true
all of you
before
have.
anyway.
Yeah.
well, alert now though is you can swap initiatives.
Mhm.
Oh.
So your
Alert
person that
me.
you really don't want to be at the bottom of the initiative, if they have that feat, and even if they are surprised and they roll bad on their initiative, then they can still
So
pop up as long as one person wasn't.
Where alert was to your benefit in 5e, where you couldn't be taken by surprise,
Mm-hmm.
right? Was beneficial. It's also beneficial in 5.5 because now if you're taken by a surprise, you can still swap up in initiative if needed.
Yeah. So that was my thing that I didn't like
Your
about
one
20.
I have one big sticking point about the PHB,
Okay. The new or the old?
the new one, and it's stealth.
Okay.
I strongly dislike there being a flat DC 15 for sneaking,
Oh, for hiding?
for hiding, for being stealthy. I
Okay.
don't love that it is not based on whoever you're trying to sneak around's perception.
Well, it still is, in that if you are hidden, like you have to have 3/4 cover in order to hide. 3/4 or total cover, or be outside. Well, which if you're outside of their eye line, then that would also be that cover.
There's still a flat DC you have to meet. To be
Yes, there
considered
is,
hidden.
but so you get the invisible condition, which is helpful, and I will say it is pretty low, but I think that it makes sneaking or like hiding a more viable option, because like if you have a battlefield where there's 20 combatants, a DM can always be like, well, the guy right next to you didn't see you, but this guy over here has a passive perception of 20 and he saw you, so you're not hidden. I think it gives players who are likely going to be hiding more than, well, I guess maybe not necessarily, but it makes hiding a more viable action, especially if you are spending your action on it instead of like someone who can hide as a bonus action.
Fair, but anyone who's hiding in a combat situation is likely doing it with a bonus action as a class feature.
It also, I think part of what they wanted to do was limit the number of rolls that you're making, in terms of so now if someone like wants to seek out something that is hidden, they have to spend an action doing so, as opposed to just saying like, hey, can I just make a quick perception check or something to see?
I think rules is written that should have been an action anyway. I think you were being very generous with us previously.
In the past, it wasn't clearly defined. There wasn't a search action as described in the 2024, which now it specifies, like, if you are making a perception check, that is an action. If you are trying to investigate the door, that is the study action.
But having a set DC regardless of level makes it like lower level it's real hard to meet that height, and higher level like it's pretty much a non-factor. You're gonna be above or
which I think makes sense, right?
Because it scales. It scales like a
having to
new
do,
adventure.
Sure, you should get better at hiding as you go on, but also who you're hiding from should matter. And this completely takes out that other half of who you're hiding from.
Yeah, and I think that
It's a big issue with this rule.
I think that their goal was to make it less dependent on others and just more this is what you are trying to do, how well do you do it? But I agree, like, especially if you're a reliable talent rogue, you have 0% chance of failing your stealth check you're hiding ever. Which
Sure, but you probably had a
makes sense.
plus 17 to hide anyway, so you were gonna be fine.
But also, maybe if you're a rogue, then you don't bother making stealth an expertise, one of your expertise choices, because you don't need that high of a roll to be hidden.
That makes sense.
But then it kind of takes away from, like, sure, like, hiding is a rogue thing, but then it makes it easier for other classes to be equivalently good at hiding as a rogue.
That's a fair point. So maybe
this is the hill I will die on.
Yeah, I agree that it seems like 15 is what they list as a medium DC for anything.
Sure, it's like three quarters.
Yeah. But like once you factor in proficiencies, it's a very achievable bar for even a level 1 rogue or a level 1 ranger who has stealth proficiency. So fair point.
It takes away like that being something that the rogue class excels at, and it makes it much more achievable for other classes to be really good at that, because it's just a set number versus you're trying to roll as high as you can.
And so maybe there's a workaround for that if you have proficiency or like expertise in, I don't know, maybe that's too complicated.
I just think making it a set DC versus based on the perception or investigation of who you're trying to hide from makes it less impactful across the board.
That's fair. Snash, Ruby, any hot takes?
Nick and I will just debate, otherwise it's fine.
I mean, yeah,
It's
I'm
fun.
happy to have you actively debate. It's not going to affect how we sneak around right now, and I'm interested to see if that will affect us as we go into the next campaign and how it will impact the story. But I mean, it seems fair enough to me. I don't feel like it's a big enough change that it's going to truly bring a strong advantage or disadvantage to any player, especially if they build out their character the best way that they want to build or play their character.
It does also make Pass Without Trace even more of a absolute banger, in
It's
that
still
you're
plus
giving
10, right?
a plus 10, so they need to roll a 5 to
And then, of course,
successfully hide.
Plus your dex.
It's also reminding players who have that spell or have that as a part of their character, hey, don't forget to use that.
Yeah.
That's one of those things that as you go into this new character building with this set, that you need to be using that spell regularly, because I don't think we've really used that spell. Yeah. Anyways.
So some other changes to the core rules. Some of them are language changes, which are helpful in terms of clarifying things. Like they've clarified in the 2024 PHB that you don't have a bonus action on your turn unless you have a feature that allows you to do something as a bonus action. Whereas in the past, especially for new players, they would be like, well, what can I take a bonus action right now? And they've
Where
made
everyone had 2-weapon fighting, like every
Yeah.
single character.
So wait, clarify that for me, because I feel like I got lost in how you were saying that, Nick. So unless you have a spell or
Previously,
you have
the round
ability-
structure,
yeah,
what you have available is movement, action, bonus action, free object interaction, which is wishy-washy in and of
Yeah.
itself.
basically.
But those are the three things you have in a turn,
right,
and you have a reaction in a round. But
right.
you're not doing a reaction every turn.
Right.
Now it's you have movement and action, and if you have something that takes a bonus action, you can take a bonus action.
Okay.
But not everybody has a bonus action.
Right, yeah, because I was going to say there's times where I know certain characters, depending on how they were built out, didn't have a bonus action until a certain level, or they didn't have an item that would allow them to even do a bonus action or think about a bonus action. So I mean, is it the same concept as that? And that
Yeah, nothing has really changed
It's a
in terms of
semantic
how it
distinction.
searches. It's clarity to the I think especially to help new players understand what a bonus action is. Like, you don't have
Okay.
a bonus action, but some things let you take a bonus action.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. That makes a lot more sense.
It doesn't take away from anything if your character has something that you can do on a bonus action.
Great.
It's just a
Gotcha.
semantic distinction.
So like
Yeah.
stabbing somebody else after you've already stabbed them twice. You know.
Correct. Another change that was introduced is, well, there's a lot of them, but in addition to having a set DC for hiding, there is now set DCs for trying to influence someone, which is in itself a new action, influence, which is, the idea is you can use any of your charisma skills or skills that your DM allows you to use in place of them, like strength for an intimidation check. But the difficulty of that, or the possibility of that, depends on the disposition of the NPC. They are either, well, first of all, it has to be something that they are hesitant about. If they're willing to do it, then you don't have to roll. If they're unwilling to do it, you don't roll at all either, because they're just not going to do it. But then if they're hesitant to do the thing that you want them to do, then it depends. Are they friendly to you, in which case you have advantage on this check? Are they indifferent to you, in which case you make the roll straight up? Or are they hostile to you, in which case you make the check with disadvantage? And I believe, again, that the DC for that is 15. And so that moment in combat where you're trying to convince the mini boss on the other side to join forces with you, there is now an action that you can take to, by the rules, try to do that. And the DM might say that no, they're not hesitant.
It almost like invites a little bit more metagaming. Because you know what you need to roll. You know what you have to meet. You don't. It's not like, I don't know whether, like, they'll blind roll for their insight of whether I tricked them or not. Like, you know what you have to roll.
Yeah, that's true.
You have to
a
roll
goal in mind.
So if you're trying to say that one big bad that you've been dying to have turned to your side and be with you,
You know it's a DC 15.
Gotta be
At disadvantage to get them to.
Unless they're 100% not willing to do it, and then you can't
Right.
roll.
That's
at all.
true. If they're completely not willing, then you have no chance.
There's no more of that. Oh, I got a natural 20. They say yes.
right. There's no. It's very straightforward and clear.
Which-
that it-
I got a natural 20, they say yes, was never rules as written anyway.
Correct.
that was
That
the
was just-
metagaming of.
That because there's no crits on skill checks or like
There's not supposed to be.
Unless you make that one of your house rules.
yeah.
Yeah, and that's
So rules as
By
written,
the
that
house
wasn't a thing
manager.
anyway.
yeah. That's funny.
Which the DMG also, has a note of that like your players, like if they're attempting something impossible, they don't need to roll. You can just tell them no. And I think that's something that especially newer DMs don't do enough of, is just say, no, you can't do that. Like you can tell that to your players. They might argue with you, but if it's something that is just not possible, like they say, I want to punch the moon. I think that's the example that they use, or shoot the moon. You can tell them, no, you can't. That's stupid. Maybe you don't tell them that it's stupid, but
It gives a lot more leg to stand on for DMs that are unwilling to tell their players no.
Very true.
you still have to make that decision. Is this NPC unwilling, willing, or indifferent? But that's a simpler in the moment decision to make.
Get like 1 and 3 versus you have to set a DC in your head and you have to decide.
Exactly. You're like, okay, should this be a DC 20 or a DC 18? I think largely what those set DCs are trying to do is make the job of adjudicating these things less arbitrary, and there's still some arbitrariness to it, but making it more standardized, for better or for worse. We talked last time about weapon masteries, and so we don't need to belabor that, but I am interested to see how that works out in our game, because we have a couple people that are going to be using weapons. And so from everything that I've heard, playing a martial gets a lot more fun when you have the weapon masteries as part of it. You get to do a lot more fun stuff.
I'm
Like-
excited to work on weapon mastery for this campaign with you.
Yeah.
Because spoiler alert, we have a whole new player's handbook, and I'm finding a homebrew class instead.
You're not the only one.
No, she's not the only one.
Because as enticing as the classes are, and they are, as I have read through, I'm like, ooh, this would be fun to play. Ooh, this would be fun to play. Ooh, this would be fun to play. You know, sometimes it still just doesn't fit the vision for your character that you have in your mind. Do we want to talk about the classes in the Player's Handbook? Any gripes or huzzas for changes that have been made?
Twin spell.
I was waiting for it.
Ooh.
Come on, Mo.
Let's
Let's hear
hear it.
about it.
Okay, yeah, whatever. I've abused it repetitively.
In this last campaign, no.
As
Yeah.
Woe,
Not
as
at all.
Dove, as
No.
as
no.
other games as well, because
Mm.
now twin spell is no longer you can cast the spell twice as long as it's targeting one creature. Now you can only cast a spell that can target multiple creatures at a higher level. So like things like haste, particularly, just because you upcasting it doesn't give you multiple targets. You still only get one, so you can't twin spell that anymore. But you can twin spell like Charm Person or something like that, because if you cast it, yeah, it's stupid.
Things like invisibility. That
Yeah.
it's essentially
in
just
reality,
saving
it's
spell
just
slots,
yeah,
or like a
it's
higher level spell
just-
slot.
it's just
So-
converting half of a first level spell slot, so then you can cast it twice.
Can I ask y'all to read the specific language for Twin Spell?
Yeah.
This is the comparison that I have.
The new one.
Back.
Yeah,
Okay.
'cause I'm curious.
So, like, wait, in the current
on.
Player's Handbook, the 2024
No.
Twin
Yeah,
Spell?
I got
The 2024.
Costs 1 sorcery point when you cast a spell such as Charm Person that can be cast with a higher level spell slot to target an additional creature. You can spend 1 sorcery point to increase the spell's effective level by 1. So
The spell's effective level, is that what it said?
yeah, so you cast it essentially, like if it's a first level spell, you cast it as a second level spell to target that additional creature, or if it was a second level spell, you cast it as a third.
So you can still twin spell Eldritch Blast. Because at higher
no.
level, yes, because at
Higher
higher
level
level you can
spell
direct
slots.
the beams at the same target or different ones.
But like,
Key though is that it says higher level spell slots.
so like if I cast Eldritch Blast, right, and I have 3 Eldritch Blasts as a cantrip, if I cast it at first level, I don't get 4, do I?
No, because
No.
There's no
the
levels
key is
for
that
it.
it has to be a higher level spell slots, which you can't.
higher
use spell
it
slots on
specifically
cantrips.
says higher level spell slot or higher level.
Higher level spell slots.
Damn.
Yeah.
Which
They,
twin spell you could only the wording in the old twin spell is if it targets one creature. So like if you had something like magic
It wasn't
missile,
slot
you
dependent.
couldn't twin spell a magic missile and get like 6 magic missiles because does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. And you could have done a twin spell of Feeble Mind or of some other high level spell that you wouldn't have that many 8th or 9th level slots to cast it twice. But with sorcery points, you could have.
How does that rule with AoE spells?
So
It's only if it targets one creature, not an AoE. Does that make sense? Or the new one?
yeah, because AoE spells, when you upcast them, they don't target additional creatures with the upcasting.
Would it count if it was an? I don't know if one exists. This is just me being Matilda. Would it count if it's an AoE that the radius expands at a higher level?
You're not then targeting additional creatures, you're just expanding an area of effect. And so
Potentially targeting more creatures.
So-
with an area of an effect, you're targeting a point.
Yeah.
Typically.
So like I could never like even in 5e you couldn't like twin spell a fireball,
Okay.
right? Because that would be fucking overkill, because then you could just twin spell it onto the same spot.
I'm asking a lot of questions because I actively avoid playing sorcerers because it's complicated. I don't like it.
Yeah.
But sorcerers, while they did lose out on twin spell, they did get a little sexier in some other areas.
Hidden spell went down in cost, which is cool.
Yeah, I mean, even just within the meta magic, there's those options. But they got the fun new innate sorcery, which that's
At
nothing to
level
sneeze
1.
at level 1. They get meta magic at level 2 now instead of level 3. I mean, anything that you get earlier.
I feel like most casting
helpful.
classes stuff moved up a level.
Yes.
Like you did it earlier.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that moved to 2 instead of 3, or 1 instead of 2.
And they did that because some casting classes prior got their subclasses at levels 1 or 2. Like sorcerers got theirs at level 1, as did clerics. Druids and wizards got theirs at level 2, but all of those then were bumped up to level 3. So instead of getting both class features and subclass features, they had to
better class
bump
features.
those things somewhere else. Yeah.
I do like that overall. It's kind of like more level throughout all the classes, especially in the beginning. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I agree with that because having started most of the campaigns that I've ever run at like level 1 or 2, it is nice that it's not like, well, okay, well, this person already has their subclass, so, well, they've got everything figured out. It makes it so that especially with new players, if they're not sure what subclass they want to take, if you're starting at levels 1 or 2, then they have some time to think about it. Because if you're a new player and you start and you have to pick a subclass, that might be an overwhelming amount of decisions to make from the go.
And like, isn't warlocks, you don't have your patron to level 3. You can like select it.
You get your
right?
pact magic at level 3 in the 2014.
You get your pact boon at level 3 in 2020 or 2014. And that is one of the big like narrative complaints that I've heard from the community is that how have you made a pact and you don't even have your patron yet?
I mean, fair, but well, okay, so that's kind of an easy narrative thing to go around of like.
It is, yeah.
You have your patron, you have to prove yourself to your patron before they give you something. Like,
yeah, or you're drawing eldritch power from potentially an unknown location, or you have an idea, like you think you're reaching out toward this great old one, but maybe a fiend has intercepted that and you're actually drawing power from them.
Surprise.
And it's like, surprise, do you want more? You better sign this. Yeah.
Ink your name.
Please place your mark on the dotted line.
Of the classes, I think the one that got the most overhaul is probably the monk, but I would argue that a close second, especially if we look at subclasses, is the barbarian. Barbarians now have a lot more incentive to use reckless attack. Not only was it awesome before because you get advantage and you give everybody else advantage on attacking you, but now there are features as you go that when you use reckless attack, hey, you can use this extra stuff too. So it incentivizes your character to actually use this core feature of the barbarian. And then the subclasses that were maligned before, like Berserker, much improved. You're no longer getting exhaustion levels every time you use a frenzy. It's just a built-in standard damage bonus on your first attack each time that you are raging, which isn't that lovely.
Rage lasting for 10 minutes is also cool.
And before rage was dependent, like your rage lasted its duration. You had to attack or be damaged. But now your rage ends at the end of your next turn unless you do one of several things to maintain it. Could be making an attack. It could be taking damage, but you can also just spend a bonus action to maintain it, which oftentimes barbarians aren't doing anything with their bonus action.
So, is that kind of just a free extension of rage since they're not doing anything else with their bonus action?
Yes, and especially since barbarians have a limited number of rages that they can do in a long rest. If you were in a combat situation, you rage. If things don't shake out exactly right, you might lose your rage after that first round. And it's like, especially at low levels, you're like, well, shit, now I've got one more rage for the rest of the day. And if your DM is someone who's throwing 4 or 5 combats at you in an adventuring day, well, then you're a bit screwed.
Mm.
Who would do that?
Oh, who would?
Me on
Depends
occasion.
on how much you get yourself into trouble.
Yeah.
It's very, very true.
How much you refuse to rest.
How much you refuse to run from a fight.
How much you
Yeah.
try to rest and time skips and you end up somewhere else.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Who would ever do that? We're not going to talk about Ranger because they didn't really fix Ranger. It's Tasha's.
Why?
It's
Snash,
Tasha's
do you
Ranger
have thoughts
plus
on Ranger?
free casting of Hunter's Mark.
Snash, it's your favorite
So-
class. Do you have things to add?
Just make it better. It's so cool. Make it better.
Something they did make better was Bard. Bard was already badass, but Bard now,
That was a
In
hard one to
reality-
make better too, because
in reality, most people didn't play like this anyway. But Bardic Inspiration, you were supposed to, in 2014, use it before you knew the results of the roll. They've largely eliminated in the 2024 edition language like that you have to use a feature before you know the results of the roll, because no one was doing that in practice.
Mm-hmm.
And so, especially with virtual tabletops where it's like, okay, well, I see I rolled a 21. I know what I got. So now it's you use it after you know that a roll has failed. But beyond that, there are more ways to get Bardic Inspiration. Like you can, at a certain level, just start expending spell slots to get more Bardic Inspiration,
he gets that 5th.
which means
Yeah. Die becomes a
You-
D8 at level 5, D10 level 10, D12 at level 15. I say level up.
yeah, and you can just constantly be giving inspiration, which
And then just-
is what the Bard does really well.
It
You're
should become a standard for a bard then, right?
Something like across the board that I think they've done a good job on is, even though we don't usually get to that point, they've made higher level characters much more interesting.
yeah.
Mhm.
They
Stay alive,
introduced the standardized 19th level epic boon feat. Now that there are categories of feats.
Like even Bard alone with the words of creation, like power
Yeah.
word heal and kill, you get 2 targets, just fucking doubling a 9th level spell.
And speaking of power word kill was a disappointing 9th level spell in 2014, because if you're going up against any sort of a boss late game when you have 9th level spells,
I mean, you have a decent 11th level character. You've got more than 100
You are
HP, you're
gambling
fine. Like,
so hard with that
Or-
spell.
or you're saving it until the fight is pretty much.
and then you already know
Taking
it's
care of it
kind
anyway.
of a waste because it's not as cool.
But now it's not just they drop dead. If they don't have fewer than 100 hit points, they take a buttload of damage.
They will
And
have
that's fun.
fewer than 100 hit points after.
Yeah. A lot of the changes to spells were, as I was looking through the spells, I tried to mark whether I thought they were buffs, nerfs, or just kind of a language shift. And as I'm looking through, Acid Splash, buff, Animate Objects, they just added a stat block. Armor of Agathis is a buff, Aura of Vitality is a buff, Bark Skin is a buff, Blade Ward is a buff, Blinding Smite is a buff. There's a ton of spells that got buffed, even if it's just a little bit. And there's comparably fewer that are objectively nerfs, like
Yeah.
Counterspell.
Oof, my boy.
And so that'll be fun, I think, as we play, to see some of those new imaginings of familiar spells take shape. Some of
start
them
actually using them instead of being like, that spell sucks. That spell
exactly
sucks, that spell
having
sucks.
Armor of
a
Agathis
reason.
being a bonus action is a fun thing too.
Which one? Sorry.
Armor of Agathis.
Yes. Oh, and Armor of Agathis has some bonkers implications for a druid if they have a way of picking up Armor of Agathis with Magic Initiate. Because
it's no longer any temp HP, right?
yes, it is. If you have temp HP with Armor of Agathis, you continue to do that damage. And with druids, when you wild shape now, you're not adopting a new set of HP. You're getting temporary HP. So that's a combination I'm expecting to see somewhere somehow.
None of us are
New
playing
broken
druids.
build.
Or yeah, polymorph
Another
plus Armor
Yeah.
of Agathis.
It's such a high chance of being super broken.
We have a couple of spells that are probably broken.
Oh.
The first is Chromatic Orb.
Oh.
Chromatic Orb kind of combined with Chaos Bolt to where now when you roll damage, depending on what you roll, the orb might leap to another target. And the odds of that happening increase when
go up
you're rolling
level.
more dice. Because you have to roll an 8 on one of the damage dice, I believe. Is that what the? Let me see what the text says.
Rolling
But-
doubles on any of the damage dice causes it.
Oh, there we go. And so once you're rolling 8d8 for a chromatic orb, you guarantee that you're going to be making that leap, and then it's still quite probable at lower upcastings of the spell. And if you have the right configuration of enemies, you could be doing just an absolute shitload of damage with one spell slot, wiping out an entire platoon.
My handy dandy little guide here has a note that Empowered Spell and Seeking Spell are going to be a wonderful little combination with Chromatic Orb there.
Oh, for sure. Because if you are empowering it, that's where you upcast it, yeah?
So you'll already have more dice to roll to have a higher chance of doubling.
And then your Seeking improves the odds that is that that you hit? Does that give you advantage on the attack roll?
Think so?
I've never played a sorcerer.
I avoid sorcerers really, really hard.
Yeah, so if you
Seeking,
miss, you can...
Seeking reduces the cost of a spell? No,
Seeking
was
lets you
reduced. Sorry.
reroll.
Seeking was reduced from 2 to 1 as cost with sorcery points, but it lets you target easier, basically.
Yeah, you miss your attack roll, and you spend a sorcery point, you get to reroll it. Which is great for a spell like that, where it's... Because I've played with sorcerers in
it
the
turns
group.
into Ship Captain Crew. You just gotta try and get dice to line up.
And I think that's a good thing. I think that's part of why they had to nerf Twin Spell, is because there was never a sorcerer who didn't pick Twin Spell as one of their two.
Twin Spell and Quicken Spell.
Twin Spell, Quicken Spell. That's you have to pick those two, essentially. And now there are combinations and there are strategies that work with these other meta magic options so that it's not you are always going to do this combo. And I think a lot of what the changes that they've made to spells and class features has been in a move to move away from that, where here's the one way to play this class
build, because if you're not doing it, you're not
not
going to do anything.
It's the same thing with it. Like, all of the changes with weapons have made martials more fun, because it's like, oh, you want to be a damage dealer, you have to be this. No, there's a lot of other options to be controlling the battlefield or doing more damage or whatever. And it's the same with there's more combinations that, oh, you can't just be a sorcerer one way.
Yeah,
there's more fun ways to do things.
Yeah, and be creative with how you approach things. I'm sure there are bonkers combinations out there that will come to light as more people are playing the 2024 handbook. I mean, we can theorize and postulate, but it's only in practice that you find those things like, oh shit, can't be what they intended.
Let's try to break the 2024 handbook with Wyrdgard
by 2025.
Before the end of 2024, let's break the handbook.
Oh dear.
Well, there are likely going to be spells that, as we play, and I've talked with Scott about this because he is going to be playing a spellcaster, that he's already pointed out, like he was talking to me about chromatic orb and conjure animals, and like, yeah, those are. We'll see how they go. Let's try them out just as written to see if they're as bad as they seem, because conjure animals, whew, if you're doing any sort of melee fighting with conjure animals, that is so. All of the conjure spells now are vastly different. It used to be that conjure and summon were more or less interchangeable. Now conjure spells like conjure animals or conjure woodland beings, or no, it's not conjure animals, it's conjure minor elementals, is the spell I'm thinking of. It's you create either an emanation around yourself or an emanation at a point. It's spirit guardians, kind of, except with conjure minor elementals, you emanate this elemental energy, and each attack that you make on a creature within that space adds 2d8 damage, and it scales by 2d8 for each upcasting of it. So you're getting absolutely bonkers damage with higher upcasting on every attack. So if you are hasted and you have a multi-attack feature and you're getting 3 attacks, maybe you even have a bonus action. Yeah,
conjure elements somehow. It's
bonkers. And so that's one that I've heard a lot of tables are just outright banning or nerfing. There are ways to have the spell be effective but not be so absolutely devastating. But there are a lot of other differences in terms of spells. There are some spells that were just added to the book from other sources like Xanathar's or Tasha's. Everybody's favorite Silvery Barbs didn't make it, but it can still be used as long as your DM approves it. We haven't had. I do. We haven't had the Silvery Barbs abuse. That I've had a table where 3 people had Silvery Barbs, and so it was just a constant Silvery Barbs, Silvery Barbs, Silvery Barbs, Silvery Barbs.
I feel like I haven't abused it.
Just deflating. No, you haven't at all. Like, you've used it a handful of times.
We have an interesting workaround for the Silvery Barbs abuse that my college buddy's DM came up with, just to limit it a little bit, where if a creature is like immune to charm, Silvery Barbs doesn't work at all. Which
definitely is helpful in some combats, especially if you're higher level where a lot of things are immune to charm. And I can see that being, I know that's one thing that people do. Other people, I've heard, don't allow it on crits. So if it's a nat 20, you can't.
That's the whole point of it. It's just to
that's the
negate
same
crit.
like. So we another campaign I planned uses like the hero dice thing of you can reroll a d20 but not on a crit success or fail. So
okay,
it's like
gotcha.
you can do better, but if you do really well or like you fuck up, you're screwed.
That makes sense. The other popular nerf to Silvery Barbs is limiting it to bards, which, I mean, I can see the logic of that in that, like, you are, it's like an upgraded vicious mockery in some sense. It's not a damaging one, but like if the idea is that you are talking shit, you're hurling verbal barbs at the person that is the creature that's doing something, it makes sense for a bard to do it. But I don't think that's going to be an issue in this upcoming campaign, because there's really only one of you who might take Silvery Barbs, and that person's not here. So there's a lot of other minor changes that we will encounter as we play. You'll notice some of the things we're going to deviate from straight away, like backgrounds. some of us are going to pick a standard background, but others are going to make our own, which I guess is technically within the rules in the Dungeon Master's Guide. But that has also been a largely maligned addition to the 2024 handbook, is that your ability scores are tied to your background, which is still limiting, especially since the provided backgrounds have a very you get if you want this feat, then you're going to pick this background, and so you got to have these two.
That doesn't feel any more
scores.
limiting than the racial scores from before.
I mean,
I agree.
Thing. Like, if you're gonna build, anything.
Oh, you want to be a
charisma-based,
rogue?
you're gonna
Don't pick a
tiefling.
furbolg.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It's just, but it kind of, I don't know. I don't necessarily see a problem with that when we went back to races, because generally you would think some races would be more inclined to be able to do certain things.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, it depends on how you in your game conceive of those races or species as they are now.
I like that, like, the species feats or racial feats are still there, but it's not stat dependent. So, like, yeah, dwarves are really good with stone, but it, like, maybe you have a dwarf that was like kind of the runt and he's really real sneaky or whatever. Like, sure, he still has like stonekin stuff or whatever, but he can be more dexterous and sneaky versus strength and con based.
Well, and the first character I ever played was a dwarf wizard, and it was inherently limiting because with point buy, the highest I could have my intelligence, my most important stat as a wizard, was 15. Because no dwarf gives you a bonus to your intelligence. Wyrdgard doesn't give you a. I don't think so. And so when we tie it to that, you innately say, if you are going to play a wizard as a dwarf, you are inherently going to be worse at it than if you just played an elf, or if you just played. Like,
the background gives you the chance of, like, maybe you are a dwarf, but you grew up in a library, so you have a chance at a higher intelligence.
And my dwarf wizard was raised by drow, and so I was like, well, that would maybe make sense that in this arcane study. So it's like, well, shouldn't she have some more intelligence?
That's a fun lore thing anyway, because drow and dwarves do not get along.
Yeah, she was abandoned as a puppy.
Salvatore is
so she was found by
Miriam.
No courage. No, okay.
Courage, the Cowardly Dog. Yes.
No, Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna continue the joke, saying I dove pretty deep into the Salvatore books about, like, the drow and the Underdark, and the whole them not liking the Durgar, etc.
I have not read a word of Salvatore's books. I know Drizzt.
They're not terrible. Drizzt is cool. They're not terrible. The lore is there. He spends a lot of time unnecessarily describing every movement in fights. So if you don't care about combat descriptions, you can skip.
And I do like combat descriptions. Did any of you play the game Baldur's Gate: Dark Alliance?
No, sorry.
Oh, this was my jam on PlayStation 2. Then there was also Baldur's Gate: Dark Alliance 2. This was before I even knew that D&D was a thing.
I did a lot of Asheron's Call way back.
Okay. I think like in the same sort of family. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Drizzt was a secret unlockable character after you beat the game, and so that's the only reason that I knew who he was as a child. I played the shit out of that game. So if anybody has a PlayStation 2 or a PlayStation 2 emulator and wants to play something fun for about 40 hours, maybe 30, I don't know, you probably can beat it in like 3 if you're really putting your mind to it.
Or if at this point you have a really like a 360 and want to just play a poorly graphics game that's really good, Two Worlds. Fantastic story. The graphics are not great, but I easily have sunk 100 hours into it and still not finished a campaign.
Oh, this story wasn't great. It was very just whatever.
Someone's gonna roast me because Two Worlds Online is shit. But I never played online games because we didn't pay for the Xbox subscription.
Inside you, there are two worlds.
There are two worlds, and one of them is online, and one of them is not, and one of them is angry at you.
That was one of my favorite jokes of the campaign was when you all were talking about the souls.
Oh my god! And you were like, there are two souls, and I was like, ah.
It just goes to
Oh,
show
gosh.
stream how much of an impact that one character has made on the whole entire group.
Oh, yeah.
I regularly find TikToks that are the inside there are two wolves.
Because I kept seeing those like TikToks, right? And then like the whole week before, like the one shot, I was like talking to my husband, and every single night we're laying in bed, and I'm like, there are two wolves inside of me. One is
Are you
hungry,
telling
one
me
is
that
eating snacks, and one
your
is on his
relationship's pillow talk was Lyra?
Oh yeah.
And you're still married?
And then I was like writing down the good ones to save for the game.
What? They weren't improv?
Some of them were. Some of them
I am
were
sure some
saved.
of them were for sure.
I can't wait to spam that so hard in person and
What
get kicked out
if
of a
we
bar
do an
somewhere.
in-person game? Our in-person one-shot, but everybody is Lyra.
Yes.
We're just one of the two wolves.
But you have to DM it.
But it's
Yeah,
just like all the wolves
yeah.
inside
Yeah, but
Lyra.
Smash is running the game.
Smash would have to be running the game, the rest of us.
And that's our crew name is we are the two wolves.
We are the two wolves.
Ooh, but there's
Oh.
four of you.
Yeah,
Two wolves.
Side note.
we'll divide it up.
Side note.
Uh-oh.
I the new place I work has owl in the name, and people have been coming in for shots, and we've been making them hoot before they take the shot
Ooh.
Oh my God.
Great.
for no reason other than our own entertainment. But people have been doing it.
It's reason enough.
Hey, people do anything when they're
It's fine.
going. Great.
Oh yeah, you want no? It's the owl. You have to hoot. Really? Yeah, absolutely. That's
Oh my
of course that's a
gosh.
rule here.
Oh, it's gonna become a standard now. That's great.
Drunk people will listen to most things if you say them with authority. So
They will.
Yeah.
Well,
will.
because Ruby's going to be playing a fox, now the thing we need to start doing is yipping.
No, I'm not.
what
I've-
does the
I've been
fox
thinking-
say?
Ding
I-
ding 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 ding.
No.
You're gonna hear a shitload of that.
That is
Ruby, just so
never
you know.
gonna
Oh,
go
I know,
away,
that's
Ruby.
gonna be
I'm
fine.
I know.
so sorry.
That's
Have
gonna
you
be fine.
ever heard foxes fighting?
Yes.
It is terrifying.
It sounds
If
so
it's
scary.
fun-
if
fact.
it's in the dark, it is terrifying.
It makes you
to
freak
have
out. 'cause you just
fox
can't freak
families. So the behind my house that I grew up in was like forest. So we had fox families every winter that would hang out in our backyard because there were no trees, and that
Yeah.
meant there were angry fox families every now and then.
out. Oh no.
It's not a fun sound.
I feel like I'm gonna have to find a couple of like recordings and like have some buttons that I
I
can
mean,
just
you're not gonna do
play.
it yourself, Ruby?
No,
Oh,
you can't
no.
press play on a
You
button.
have
you have
to,
to
yeah.
do the voice.
I'm not doing. No.
I
can't
have
do
done
that.
a ridiculous
how
mix
high-
of a French and Slavic accent for
It's
a
true, you
year
have done
now.
it. You know how high some of those yips are? I can't. My voice is like a lower register than that.
Do a lower register fox. It's fine.
Yup, 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 yup.
Yep.
Yep, that works.
That was great, Nick. That was great.
Thanks. Ooh, new character idea. Throw it out. Instead, you are like a beatboxing, skeeting, aspiring rapper. So it's
Jazz.
yup,
fox.
yup, skeet, skeet with your,
No.
your fox
No.
sounds.
Yip, yip,
No.
skeet, skeet, skirt.
What's gonna end up happening is when I don't want to talk as that character, I'm just gonna yip at you guys and just like have my character walk away from the
Okay,
conversation.
but as long as you do it yourself and
If I
not
would
with
do
a
it
button.
myself. Yeah, I would do it myself though. It's only in combat that I might do it with the button, so that I can just be like telling you the
No,
combat. You hear the
No,
noises
you
in the
have to do
background.
the
We're gonna say sorry, Ruby. There was some interference there. Can you say that again?
By the way, it could just be a recording of my voice being played by a button. So
I
that
don't care.
could
You have to
technically
do
count.
it. You have to
Yeah,
do
alright.
it in the moment.
We'll see.
En el momento. Speaking of the moment, let's take a moment to go to the bathroom and get a drink, and we'll come back and we'll talk some more. We'll do a little pivot, talk about some things. Okay.
Okay, bye.
See you soon.
Okay, bye.
Oh.
And then we'll do it again. This is our victory. Sword to sheath, it's time to rest. Let it all wash over. You gave your best. With no need for sorrow, you followed your quest. This is our victory. Wonder where the road will lead. What comes after you sow your seed? Your story continues. This is your creed. This is our victory. So take every moment you make and write your story down, word for word, road for road, start to end, and then we'll do it again. So take every moment you make and write your story down, word for word, road for road, start to end, wherever it bends. This is our victory. This is our victory. Let me tell you a story of a guild like none before, who met each other by circumstance, all that yada 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 lore. They started out fighting ogres and ravaging town stores. Now they're a little guild called the Crimson Crows. Stick around to find out some more. There's never a dull moment, they're all characters, I swear. From a kid to Baxi who shoots fireballs, to a high elf obsessed with his hair. There's a rogue who cares too much about gold, and one who feels nothing at all. A bard who lives through his alter ego, a rockman who creates mushroom people, a cleric with just a dash of evil. Now for some underscore. The Crimson Crows, while a guild of nobility, they sure put on a show. When banners rise of red and gold, the whole town knows that soon a juicy story will unfold. If ever life gets boring and you need to even the score, simply head on down to the Crimson Crows and knock upon the front door. Come up with a quest to try their hand, it doesn't matter the task. They'll save the day but in their own way. Hold your breath when they ask for pay. The black and white just a shade of gray. It's sure a kick in the ass. The Crimson Crows, while a guild of nobility, they sure put on a show. When banners rise of red and gold, the whole town knows that soon a juicy story will unfold. Certainly they've seen it all, seen great triumph, seen great fall, plenty gold to deck a hall, and plenty shiners from a brawl. But outside their grand story, they sure are a menagerie. Their origin a mystery. Just how did it come to be? The Crimson Crows, while a guild of nobility, they sure put on a show. When banners rise of red and gold, the whole town knows that soon a juicy story will unfold. Many moon cycles past, traveled with my last. She was fair as an evening spring. We walked unending roads in search of hidden troves for a ruby to forge in a ring. In the cave tucked away, there were tales of what laid where a king once hid all that shined. And in hopes of such a find, running on borrowed time, we pushed onward, my lass and I. As we entered the cave, doing our best to stay brave, all my lass could think of was her curse. Find a ruby of rare, one once owned by an heir, only then could her curse be reversed. With her soul on the line, I found a ruby red as wine, but as I touched it, a voice overcame. It said, "You dare steal my jewels, now it's you who must lose the most precious of all that you crave." And I loved her then, and I love her still, though she haunts me, cursed banshee. In my sleep she calls, I still hear her screams, how they pierce me. Wretched banshee, please let me be. As its words slipped away, my last fell to her grave faster than I could run to her aid. Though she laid ever still, I heard a shriek that said, "Kill," a lament so agonizing it rang. Ever since that day, folks warned to stay away from the banshee that preys at that king's cave. Now I wonder if it is her voice or just time that calls out to me, wailing my name. And I loved her then, and I love her still, though she haunts me, cursed banshee. My poor lass now destroyed, nothing will fill this void. Now she haunts me, cursed banshee, never the same.
All right, everybody, we're back. The reality is, I could talk about the handbook for probably like 10 hours uninterrupted, but that's not great content. So we're not going to do that. We're going to save additional discussion of those features and things for when we encounter them. But we do want to talk about this beautiful game in general and the sort of things that we are drawn to. So I did have a question for the three of you. In the world of fantasy that is so multifaceted and varied, like what sorts of things, features, settings, are tropes, ideas are you most drawn to? What do you look for in fantasy?
Oh, that's easy. Lord of the Rings. Give me Lord of the Rings. Give me best friends on a backpacking adventure on a quest to save the world. That's what I want.
Splitting the party.
No.
Mm.
You don't want 3 different directions for the
No,
party?
I don't want to sit for like 2 hours before I can do anything.
And you want a creepy little boy. You know?
Always.
You gotta have a little creepy little boy that's just palling around with the.
Is he bad? Is he-
Potentially
I don't-
redeemable.
Can we fix him?
Yeah.
Is he a real
Yes.
boy? Does he
Realistically,
have a soul?
Snash wants to save the villain.
Yeah.
Is he gonna eat
always.
fingers?
Probably.
Yeah.
I will say I agree mostly with what Snash is saying, except for one point, because the save the world, I don't really care about saving the world like I used to be, like in fantasy. I want to be kind of that adventurer group that like is part of the guild or like a part of different groups that goes and gets different challenges, whether it's let's go save, some stolen children, or let's, guard this caravan as it goes from this really small town to this really big city and like sees different sites. So they like grow and develop in different areas and expand the world. And so for me, that's what I really want to do. And I'm looking forward to hoping that we can kind of do that where, there's small, simple quests, something that's not going to like go destroy the goblins that are outside and have been terrorizing and stealing sheep. I don't know.
Why
it's
the
just-
goblins? What do you have against goblins, Ruby?
I don't really like
Rude.
goblins.
Who do
I'm
you?
going to be honest. I don't really like goblins. It's just personal preferences. Maybe it could be
Goblin one shot.
Every time
Exactly.
I've ever run goblins, players always end up getting them to unionize. It's just
Yes.
just what
No,
happens.
yeah, that's
So,
actually happened.
Completely unrelated side story here. I am part of a private Ren fair called Pirate Fest, and we have crews, and we had to make new crew this year. And my crew are the goblins. We were told we had to assign a captain, and we said, "Hey, fuck you!" And we have a spinning wheel, and every time someone asks who our captain is, you spin the wheel to find out because our goblins are a co-op. We are a collective. We make decisions together.
Oh, nice.
You're stronger
We
united.
refused to name a captain, and anytime somebody asks, we spun the wheel and waited 5 minutes for it to stop moving to tell them who the captain was.
Goblins together are
love that.
strong.
That's beautiful.
Now, correct
You
me
guys
if
keep
I'm
them as big
wrong.
goblins.
During our monster arena, weren't you Team Goblin?
Hmm?
Matilda, was that your team name?
Yes.
Oh yeah, that
Okay.
was Matilda's team name.
Yes, it was.
There we go.
I'm very
1,
pro
2 out of
goblin.
4.
Okay? I
Which out
like
of
a
3?
weird, funky little dude. All right.
Who doesn't?
Right?
that meme that's always circulating
you always fall
where
in love with them. Little
the
funky little-
DM describes the tavern and there's like the dark brooding guy with a sword that's like circling around him and like who else is there? Like, oh, the goblin Sam Smorkle. Like, oh, we talked to Sam Smorkle.
Yeah.
Because who wouldn't?
Exactly. But also, like, there's something to be said for I spend my daily life as the NPC in most people's lives. So I like the weird, funky little dude that no one's paying attention to because that's who I usually hang out with.
Yeah, I get that.
I love that. So Snash, are you a fan then, since you said Lord of the Rings, of like a lower magic setting?
No.
That was fast and efficient.
Okay, reason being because I like being a magic user. That's just I love spellcasters. That's
But do you like the lower magic setting where you are exceptional, or do you like the higher magic setting where you are at the average?
lower magic, exceptional. I like to be special.
And I think that's a tricky thing to run in D&D. If you come out with the premise that like, okay, we're in a low magic world, magic is rare, there's not a lot of it. Your players are innately going to be like, well, I want to be one of those people, and so then everybody's a caster, and it's like maybe that wasn't what the DM had in mind. So I think that if a DM wants that, they have to be more explicit. Like, we're doing Lord of the Rings, damn it.
I
One of
tried
you can be magical.
with my in-town buddies to run when I was DMing and in person. I tried because I built a Feywild campaign that the premise was basically humanoid world, portal opens up, and I told them very explicitly, like, here, there are like 4 races limited you can choose from to build off of. Here are the classes you can choose. This is low magic build, and you're gonna encounter a lot of magic. You'll absorb some magic, but like starting out, low magic. Every single player, without fail, built some like high casting, ridiculous. I'm like, no, this is not the point. You are not the exception to the rule. You are going into this as everybody else. Like every single player.
I will say,
a very high magic person.
When I think of that, and I think of like Snash would be like this exceptional person because like there's not that much magic around. I feel like I would appreciate that world a lot, because then if you find that magic item, like if I was just a fighter or if I was even just a rogue, but I find that magical item like my dagger that I currently have, it's so much more valuable to me as a player and a character because it's a rare thing that just enhances my ability not just to fight, but depending on what the item is, to just help the team or help the party. And when I think of like a Lord of the Rings style, I'm like that 1 or 2 special magic items that the DM is aware that like that's what I would need to feel like really included in that magic part, then I'm like, yeah, totally fine if there's not a lot of magic around, or if there's only one person in the group that's really magical. I'm totally fine with that. I don't need to like have a sorcerer or wizard or warlock magic character built out. That's just me.
The DM or Galadriel.
Yeah.
I feel like that makes, like, if you play a game like that, right? That makes like going into a shop, you're like, all right, well, what magic items do they have here? That's the only thing I'm gonna buy here anyways, would be a magic item. Instead, you go to a shop and it's like, you know, these are all your items, and then maybe it's like, oh, but in this box there's one item. You know, it's much more like it
or
changes
even like
the way people play the game.
I think it's a play style thing. Like I don't love having to like, there's so many magic items available, you have to pick and choose and shop. Like I like a little bit, I guess it's railroading playstyle wise, but where it's kind of a lower magic setting, and what you might need is like there's 3 possible magic items available.
That's what I really liked about Martyria, especially when we started, because there were no magic items. Right. Until we
I will get so personally paralyzed by choice if there is a shop full of every magic item available.
Yeah.
Like I just it will not be enjoyable. It will not be fun anymore.
You know what I like is, and it's only because I've been watching The Hobbit way too much, and it's the movies The Hobbit, and I've read the book way too many times. I love the troll horde cave, where they walk in and suddenly like in the dust, and what the heck is, oh my gosh, there's 2 of these unique, amazing elven swords that
weird
have been lost
shit
to time.
That wouldn't be there, but then it turns out useful later on. Like
it's something, you know. And so
I know it's contrived and it's a trope.
Right.
I love
it's
that.
such a trope. It's such a trope. But it just then it feels like it's gonna really be something that down the line of the story, whether it was planned out by the DM or not, it's gonna just really impact how your character plays or how you play as a player overall.
Yeah, that's magic items has always been something that as a DM that I feel I'm not someone who loves a roll table, because I don't like the unpredictability and the chaos that it could potentially create, where it's like, oh well shit, this level 2 character just got a Vorpal sword, cool, now what?
You like to craft the things for the environment.
Yeah, for sure. And so I was happy that you all were very receptive to this. Is like there is magic in this world, the magic items, but like, you know, it's pretty rare, and you gotta have the special sauce to make them magic.
And there's something so wonderful about like, you feel really special when you see an item and you know the DM made it, and like it's somewhat tied to your character. Like it fit, like Crescent Tide could work with any melee fighter, but it feels so tailored with Sitsu.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Like you feel real special when you get like, oh, they made that for me.
And technically, I don't think rogues have proficiency with sickles, but I said
No,
fuck
not at all.
Not at all.
Because
That's
I
totally
should
out
not
of
be able to
place.
use that weapon. But
I liked the idea because I didn't want to just like, oh, here's another rapier. Like every rogue has a rapier or a
And it,
dagger
it
or a
fits
short
so
bow.
well with the backstory too. And I love this is where like the troll and the cave were like with Martyria and the magic, all these items look like pieces of shit. I'm sorry. They look like trash
Really do.
in this antique shop, and we were all like, we know this isn't trash, but crap, how do we pick? And I mean, Nick, you were great about like directing us and be like, hey, look at this piece of armor, look at this dagger, look at this scythe. And so I don't know, I love that idea of like you find something that's dirty and it like obviously you can tell there's some sort of shine to it, but it takes you some extra step or some movement or some task.
it's a tied thing with your character of like, oh, can I do like a religion to see if I recognize the symbols on that
Mhm.
armor to be tied to Durelian or
Mhm.
whatever, or like,
There was
oh,
also like
Enyo picked up this armor that's a mysterious leather. Is that
people's skin.
leather?
Dude,
It
yeah.
is people leather. Okay.
Totally people leather. Oh,
I
and
liked
it bites
having-
you.
That overhead too, that thought of like when we are looking at every single item, because we're like, I got one Arcanex and I'm gambling that
Mhm.
Yeah.
whatever this is going to work for me.
Right. Yeah.
Hopefully.
And there's always, and this might just be because Nick is benevolent. There's always a like what we are willing to take a gamble on. It works mostly in our favor, item wise, and that might just be because he's benevolent. But
Yeah, well, and also like with the items that I designed for this, because like you've figured out that, like all of them are tied to one of the four bears, and so I had at least one for each forebear created. There's items that I think are cool that you didn't discover in this campaign that I'll probably repurpose for the future. But like one of my favorite items that's I've used in other campaigns. It's always fun. But where was I going with this? I don't know.
What's
like
your
all
favorite
of the items.
item? What's your favorite item that you mentioned? Your favorite
Ooh,
item. that you
so
mentioned.
favorite item that I think that you all have encountered. I like the chalice,
Yeah,
especially because I
we've used that
like.
way too much.
Well, and I like the narrative that it got, which was just totally in the moment. Peel back the curtain. That was improv for me. Like I didn't have a plan for the chalice had to break, but to bring Woe back, I figured that was narratively fitting. And so I love what the chalice became also like when you dipped it in the holy water to exalt it. Like that was not something I expected, and so that was, and I think as we get into when we do our full wrap up after the campaign, we do our debrief. Like you're gonna find there's a lot of things that you all did that I didn't expect, and I just went with it, and it became something cooler because you had the idea in the first place.
And it says something really wonderful about you as a storyteller, that you saw us like, oh, that connection with like the chalice and that font of holy water, oh, they're from the same place. Okay, we're gonna connect that, and then you just rolled with it and actually made it had an impact instead of like, yeah, you dip your chalice and now you have a cup of holy water and it doesn't do anything. Like, well, that rewards exploration, and it rewards like diving into the lore heavily, and I love that about the way you run the games.
And what's
Thank you.
fun about that is that we could never tell.
Yeah, we
Thank
don't
you.
know what's gonna go, and we don't know what you
what's-
planned, and we
what's
don't know what you
pre-planned
haven't.
and what's on.
There are going to be some things that I'll confess to having just totally made up on the fly that
Yeah.
I'm
That's
excited for
okay.
you to.
There's
to-
my
I can't
biggest
wait to
ask
grill
for the
Nick.
Q&A. I want a list of the things that you completely improv and had no clue about beforehand. Like,
Mhm.
that's my
Yeah.
biggest ask for the Q&A.
I can't wait. I can't wait to be able to like just
Yeah.
grill Nick and just be like, so this situation, okay,
It's-
what was happening? Were you like on the fly, or was this like legitimately you planned this?
We should name that session "The People versus Nick."
yeah.
But
Because it'll turn into
I
an
mean-
interrogation of Nick. I feel like.
No.
I will say that's for anybody out there that is a DM or an aspiring DM, like that's not easy, and that's not something that I feel like I've always done well. Or there's even like been times where I've walked away from a session in Martyria and was like, I fucked that up, or I messed this up, or no, there have been things from at least from the, like, or I did something like, oh shit, that contradicted this other thing that I had planned, because I, like, in the moment, like I had to come up with something, and then it's just that work of, well, in between sessions, well, now I gotta fix shit, I gotta put some duct tape on and make it all make sense.
Back together.
I think too, what was always nice is never in the game did it ever feel like players versus DM. Like,
Yeah.
maybe
Oh, yeah.
jokingly,
Oh yeah, of course.
but it was never like,
Combative.
With the Herald.
it was never like, okay, we gotta figure out what the stats are so we can fuck Nick.
How are
over
we gonna
this way.
outsmart Nick with this
Yeah.
thing?
Because like anytime it was like, do you think he would find this funny?
Yeah.
What if I did this?
'Cause
What if
there's
I did
always
this
the
during
knowledge
combat? What do you think he's gonna do? I
If
don't.
he did something good enough for the story, or like plot wise, like he would reward it in
Yeah.
some way.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be mechanically, even if it's just like, it was pretty cool. Okay. Like, it'd be some sort of.
It's gonna be
bonus.
interesting to hear Nick's questions about our background chat.
Oh god.
We'll
But
just,
yeah.
At
we'll
this
just
point,
add
the
him
4
to the chat.
different Death Girls chats that we have had.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
At the end of the game, we will just add him to the Discord chat, and he can just scroll up and have the time of his life.
I mean,
with,
okay,
pretty impressive.
That's only gonna
25,000.
give you through when Scott joined. So
Yeah.
There's the other one. Yeah, I was gonna say we
There's
have that old
2
one.
others.
Because there was
There's
Death Girls plus Alex.
Death Girls plus Alex, and then there was a temporary Just Death
Just-
Girls.
Just
Yeah.
Death Girls.
But didn't we add Scott to the Just Death Girls one?
That, well, we.
Or did we
had-
make a new one?
have a third.
Well, I know we
had.
had. There's a lot. I'm like,
There's a lot.
scrolling back through, like, hold on, where's the
Well,
chat?
and
We have-
and as a DM, even though I'm not part of that, and I don't see that, and even if I never did, like, knowing that exists is incredibly rewarding. Like, hearing you all just like toss around names that I made up as like, that's something that exists in your head now. Durelian is a thing now.
I have
like,
such a
that's
strong
cool.
affiliation for Death/Maven just as a
Mhm.
person now.
Yeah.
The
But-
hours Snash and I have spent theorizing about the crimes and the forebears.
Yeah.
Which one of those conversations we had probably 4 months ago is
Finally
Into
coming to
fruition.
yeah. Which
kind
we-
of.
But-
that was one of those, like, we were having this crazy conversation of like, what if we all have to die? And it was like,
yes.
God, no! Gods, no! Okay, I don't know if this is
I don't think I even know this.
I don't know if this is revealing too much to stream or whatever, but you had sent us a request, Nick, 2 sessions ago, asking us to send you story options. And you gave a couple of examples, and one of the examples you gave was so very close to like a throwaway
Yeah.
comment Snash and I made of like, yeah, and then Sitsu and Owlin do this at the end, and then Woe is there doing this, and then like one of them was such a throwaway of like I had sent her this really sad TikTok, and I was like, oh look, it's the ghost of Woe reading a book in the ruins of Martyria, like, and it's
Oh,
so
wow.
accurately close, and that was months ago. But
Yeah.
that is how in
yeah.
depth it has become a part of our lives at this point.
I mean,
Like,
we have playlists, and I'll be like, hey,
Multiple.
do you want to feel really sad about Woe and Lyle? Here, listen to this song.
we've shared like 2 with the group. There's like 6 or 7.
I was gonna say there's way more than you probably shared with us, and not even to mention the back and
Uh,
forth TikTok videos you've shared with each other.
Oh God, no!
and that
It-
I've shared with you, and it's just like,
Mm. That's not for public consumption because I will look like a ridiculous.
No,
like,
but it's
internet
just like-
person. I don't.
it's just another level of the.
That's
the
a shameful
background.
thing.
Nah.
I woke up to Woe sending me a couple of songs, and then I got on the computer and spent like 3 hours editing a song to get the multiple songs together to be the final playlist for Martyria
Oh wow.
for everybody, which is gonna happen soon. But
Yes.
she
Oh,
like
God.
sent
When?
a couple of things and made a Spotify playlist. Then I was like, give me a second, and I like got on the editing software, and they're all mashed together now. And like, so many hours of our real life have been dedicated to this wonderful story that you've created for us. And
Yes.
we find all these silly videos that are like, I'm part of this fandom of 4 people because no one else knows about my D&D characters.
Yeah.
That is genuinely like kudos. And I'm not just trying to suck up here. Like, kudos, because you have created this world that we have been so invested in for a year now.
Well, thank you. And I feel like I've said this before, but I do want to emphasize, like, the world is what it is. Yeah, because like I did a lot of work to set things up, but it is what it became because of you all. Like I ran a campaign in Martyria, and it was different. Like it did not go the way that things, like, some of the beats have been similar, but I think in some ways it was helpful because that was like a first draft where I got like a lot of ideas figured out, and then I was able to really refine things and use what you all came up with. Like,
Figured out how to hurt us. Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
Well, did I mention when we did the first Q&A like where Maven came from?
From your first character.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was my dwarf wizard, was
And
Maven.
I
She's
remember
totally
when you
unrelated
said
to
that,
death,
we were
but
like,
yeah.
so no, you said that. And I think
Yeah.
I messaged Matilda something about what if they were just people once.
That
And-
spawned our entire corkboard theory, by the way.
and that wasn't even what I loved the name Maven, and as I was like coming up with this pantheon, and it changed from the last time I played a game in Martyria, and I was like, Maven needs to make a comeback, and so
I'm so
there
glad
she was.
she did. That spawned so many conversations, and that turned into Snash and I staying up for 3 hours past stream with the corkboard digitally, trying to figure out who corresponded to what, and
Love it.
it was me sitting on MS Paint attempting to draw my own
I saw a draft.
you know, the matrices you play as kids, like the matching things,
Mhm.
trying to make my own version of that with the forebearers and who matched with whom, to get the 3 with the primes versus the forebearers.
But
Oh,
don't worry,
man.
I played my own game of that. So-
Yeah.
It was really hard to build, okay?
Yeah.
I still didn't fully get it figured out. It's
It would have been so much easier if we just played in person and we could have just fucking done a corkboard.
Or you could have bum rushed me and stolen my notes.
Oh,
well, if that's an option,
that
yes.
is an option.
That is not.
We're good. I mean, look, we're not going to be too far from where you live.
I mean, honestly, we might request you bring all of your notes just so.
I mean,
we
it's
can
just-
have a view of them.
It's not sexy. It's just a Google Doc. Just
I wanna see
pages
it.
and
Can
pages
I
of Google
just
Doc.
have the Google Doc? It's fine.
So
Maybe.
totally let me have the Google Doc to just like walk through
For
that.
like an hour.
I mean,
Yeah.
we could all overpower him.
Hey, this is true. This is
Here's the
true.
thing. I'm
Snatch, we're
confident.
cooking for him. We can definitely overpower him.
But here's the thing. I'm confident if
Dummies.
you told Scott to hack into my email, he'd probably have it in like 20 minutes.
Nick,
Yeah.
I don't want to worry you, but I could do that too.
Yeah.
Have a
Yeah.
spy degree for a reason.
Yeah.
Well, that's
So
Anyways,
we're-
that's what kind of setting I like.
Lord of the Rings.
Oh god,
yeah.
that was the question.
You can see how
Uh-huh.
much stream that like we love Martyria that we just
I
evolve
love
so
the
quickly.
lore.
But we also just
Setting-wise-
love each other.
Setting
we
wise,
do.
the lore is so much more to dive into. And I think I've said this before, but like my background is a lot of religious studies, a lot of sociological, like how people exist, how they work, and bringing in little bits of like in the second version of Martyria, Le Chauffin was more important because they do death rituals, and that's very prevalent in the world, so they got more popular. That little bit, like little realistic things that make it feel like a lived-in world, I love that so much.
I'm glad you feel that way, because I have no experience with religion and philosophy, so
I taught intro to world religions for 3 years to undergrads, and it was a horrendous time. But
wow. I took one history of science and religion course, which was interesting, but I didn't learn anything about religion, just the sort of juxtaposition of science and religion across the ages.
So I taught the sociological study of world religions, but I did it in a school that is in the Bible Belt.
Fun.
And we got a lot of literally a couple of people bringing their parents down to yell at me about assignments, people refusing to do assignments because reading a book about another religion was against theirs, and then they got mad when they failed the assignment about writing a thing about a book about it was a whole thing. But
well, and that's something interesting. Like, I know this was more prevalent decades ago, but like people clutching their pearls at D&D because of like these pagan gods and demons.
Decades ago, high school Matilda was playing D&D, and people, literally my friends' garage attics, because the friends we were playing with would send their parents to go find them because they were worried they were playing D&D. So we were being sneaky and hiding in attics to play this game.
But it's like,
In
it's
high
so, so silly, because like no one could possibly think for a second that any one of you are like, you know what, that Durelian, that Maven, well shit, like,
Oh my
really
god,
thinking.
we should try and
This
summon
deity
them
we
in our
made up
basement.
on
Yeah.
paper, like
Yeah, it's obviously just fun make-believe.
yes, but the satanic panic around D&D did not die all over the country.
Okay, fair.
Still to this point, but yeah,
Fun
no,
news. I am starting a D&D club at my school after Thanksgiving, so
That's so awesome.
gotta give back to the next generation. I've done it everywhere I've taught except my last school, because they just wouldn't let people start clubs. Sad. I will say playing with kids is kind of the worst, but
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
imagine. When my daughter told me, she's in 6th grade, when she told me she's joining a D&D club, and they're like, they had to limit it to 30 kids who signed up because they didn't want more than like 7 kids per DM. And I was like, oh my god, can you imagine 7 11-year-olds playing a game that
No,
they barely know?
10 14-year-olds, and it's terrible.
Yeah.
No, I couldn't do that.
I ran one shots for Pirate Fest, and I had to limit it to 6 adults because I didn't want to deal with that many drunk pirates.
Oh my god.
Mm.
Group size, that's tough. I don't understand how people run games with like 8-10 people in them. I know sometimes they're like, oh, people rotate in. Even that's a nightmare. But
I think the reliable factor there is not everyone will show up.
yeah.
Like it
I think
has
you
to
ha-
be you have 10 people in
Right.
your group, but like 5 show up, maybe everyone.
Unless you're doing some sort of like West Marches style, then yeah, it could, but if it's narratively driven, which I don't know how much you can do that in a big old group. I think 4 is the perfect number.
4 is,
5 is max.
but 4 is perfect. 4 is for the
4 is
win.
great.
4, you have balance.
4 is
You can do a 2 and 2 sort of thing. Occasionally you'll do a 1 and 3 split up. No one's ever done that, Ruby.
And then if you got these like extras, it's like one is off of doing this, and then you got one with her familiar and her lover in this section. You got another.
Hey, don't throw so much
Yeah.
shade at me when like they're
that
the
was
ones that
that
have
was at
NPCs.
Snatch very clearly.
That was a Snatch.
Well, no, I'm talking about before. But I mean, that was definitely a stash. But you guys, you two, always seem to have 2 to 3 characters you're controlling this campaign.
Yeah.
It felt like
Okay,
maybe not at the beginning. Maybe
to
not at the
be
beginning.
fair,
But
Lyle was never supposed to be a thing. Lyle was
Same with
a
Alan.
All right.
throwaway person that I hated.
and then what
Right.
happened?
And then D&D
And then
happens.
she
And
mentioned
then I
him
felt
once,
bad.
and we gave her
Honestly,
shit about her
You want
ex-boyfriend.
to hear what happened?
I actually do want to hear this because I killed his girlfriend, and I'm
It's
really
because
curious.
Enyo killed his girlfriend.
Oh yes, yes,
Is
I was the catalyst of it.
100%.
Well, yeah, because that was really the only time we saw. That was the first time we saw Lyle.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was because Woe felt so bad about that she had to make things right.
So thank you, Ruby.
So you're the reason Lyle has
Love
been
that.
in the rest of. You're the reason
Love
they got back
that.
together.
Love that.
Yeah.
Wasn't
Everything.
even intentional. It was totally just a
No,
chaos.
it was. I was like, I wrote it into my backstory. I'm like, okay, she's a recovering cannibal. What was like the triggering factor? Oh,
She ate
she
his
has like who's the person that she's like doesn't get along with? Oh, her ex-boyfriend. That makes sense. She ate his finger. He hates her. You know, like bad breakup, whatever. What's his name? I don't know. Give me a stupid fucking name, Lyle. Like
Oh, love that it's just so normal. Just a guy
And
named
now-
Lyle.
I was like,
Lyle.
just like, what's the most like throwaway dude name? Lyle.
And now
Okay.
it is someone she's willing to die for.
Well,
Yep.
and Lyle has. I love Lyle because like I could tell. I was like, okay, Lyle is just this. Nobody was like, okay, he's got to be kind of a dork because he works for the archaeology guild. But I was like, but he's got to be hot because like there's got to be a reason.
There's gotta be a reason
well,
to
it
be
was
like
gotta
this.
be a
you were like-
reason.
You were like,
Whoa.
what does he do? And I'm like, something stupid, something dorky. Like,
How did he pull Whoa?
like
Yeah,
they
exactly.
Met
How?
at book. They met at book club. Like, all right,
Right.
Yeah.
great.
Because the book was the whole catalyst too
Yeah.
for you on the other
Yeah.
side. Oh, I love that.
Yeah. So
Oh,
it's you,
goodness.
Ruby.
Yay!
Yeah, that's something I think I'll definitely ask you all when we do our end of campaign Q&A. Is like, is this idea of what about your character became more than you thought it would be, or what became less than you thought it might be? Because inevitably there were certain things that we didn't bring to the limelight, and we just didn't get a chance to thoroughly explore because there were so many other things to explore.
Mhm.
But we can save that for next time, because I'm sure Scott has ideas on that too.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Can't leave Scott out of that.
so do we want to take another break, or do we want to jump into the last bullet point for tonight, our teaser?
I'm good with either. I will duck out and run to the bathroom regardless of the decision. So
Okay,
So then,
so
yeah,
then
let's take
let's take a break.
Yeah, because I want to refill my water anyways, so that'll be perfect.
All right, well, we'll be back, gang.
also,
See
real
you
quick
soon.
before we leave, Ian in chat, be prepared. We're gonna grill you with some random questions here. Break.
We will.
Be ready.
You got the call out. Vax. Baby.
Myself to sleep with thoughts of fights so I travel far and wide till I find the truth inside. For what good is a charm without strength to carry on? I've earned treasures and trinkets to share. I fought battles I did not need to bear. I've wandered through it all without a care. Bestowed to me upon the glory field. An amulet, but no power did it yield. But I was told it would glow again when I'd learned what that means. To come to terms with every little thing. And now when I lay down to sleep, I hear a hum call out to me. I've not found it yet, but no, I will. I feel it tugging at the back of my heel. I'll follow it through any door. Show me a world I've not seen before. And maybe there it'll glow again. For what good is a charm without strength to carry on? In the town of Valley Deep, the strangest of bond lies in a group that built their trust on lies. And while they have each other's backs, you won't catch them at mine. Surely if you do, you'll come up short a dime. The six, they call themselves fearless, unafraid, a mangy pack of thieves worth more gold than one trades. One does the thinking while the second does the talking, while the third is out walking to stalk their prey. The fourth is a sneaking, the fifth does the thieving, and the sixth is out drinking at the tavern all day. The six, the six. In the town of Valley Deep, you don't go out at night. Not dragons one should fear, nor the creatures that bite. One must hold their weight in gold with all their might. Surely if you don't, it disappears in plain sight. The six have struck again, and all you did was blink. Might catch one if you run, or go out for a drink. One does the thinking while the second does the talking, while the third is out walking to stalk their prey. The fourth does the sneaking, the fifth does the thieving, and the sixth is out drinking at the tavern all day. The six, the six, the six. In the town of Valley Deep, the wanted posters swayed, and the local trades were always delayed. Then came a clever goblin who knew just what to do. Head down to the tavern and cook up a special brew. The six were unaware that goblin knew their game. He found the weakest link and put the six to shame. The six got to drinking, and the fifth stood there blinking, while the fourth attempted healing the poison away. The last two caught an inkling when they saw the goblin winking. Now the six are all clinking behind bars all day.
right, everybody, we are back. So, For the Win has been around for a few years now. It started with a guy named Alex reaching out to a few people.
Wait,
First
that's
was
a really super fun fact, secret way back. It started with a group called Ember Aces Guild.
Yep, that is true.
Alex
It
and I
actually
were
did.
both a part of that. We both were supposed to DM for, and they took a really long time. And Alex and I both did one shots, and he did this one shot that Ruby was in, and that's how For the Win started.
Well, and he poached me from a very bad group of like formed from Facebook.
No,
I do-
actually,
Ember Aces was not bad. Ember Aces is still a good
Yeah.
guild, but it just they were moving really slowly, and we wanted to play.
So he actually poached me from the same group he got Nick, because when he interviewed me, I had requested, like, I was applying for different groups, trying to join a group for the first time. And he actually reached out to me. And when we had a full conversation, he jumped on having me join because of my streaming capabilities that I already had and the knowledge I had, because the whole point of the group that y'all had joined was because y'all wanted to start streaming. Was that right?
Yeah, and they had
just
all
wanted
the
to play.
setup. One of
I
the
wanted to play. That
admins-
was all I did.
One of the admins of the I did a whole interview process with them. It was ridiculous, but it was fun. And it was like one of the admins shared like her Steam library with me so we could do different things in map builder, but they ran really slowly to get anything started. And Alex and I were both like, okay, like we're ready to play, like we have campaigns going, or not going, but like set ready to go. And they were like, yeah, it'll be a couple months maybe. And we're like,
No.
but
I
can
want
we
Ian. I want.
can we play? And they were like, yeah, eventually. And then Alex kind of just messaged me and was like, hey, what if we just play it? And I was like, sure, why not? And then he was like, I have this person who knows how to stream. And I was like, cool, why not? And then brought in Ruby. And then, so it was me, Alex, Ruby, Nick, and Dimkin, right?
Well,
Originally.
There was one session pre-Ruby,
Yep.
Yeah.
Y'all played before
Yeah.
I joined, and then he found
Yeah.
and brought me in.
because I was in the middle of like a work, like I like a conference, and so I had to like sneak away from it to come play, and then I had to dip out for like an hour because I had to, or like 30 minutes because we had to do some
Yeah, and y'all
debrief.
did it like on like Zoom or something, and then I was like,
Oh,
no,
yeah.
we need to use Discord.
It was-
it was like we needed to go over
There
here
was
and
a
do
lot
this.
Yeah.
of there was a lot.
It was
of
our
issues.
infancy.
It was a lot, but
But I
mean, look at us now,
mentioned
though.
that because one, look at us now, Ma.
Mhm.
But beyond that, for the majority of the people that have watched our stream thus far, it's, like occasionally a significant other, a lot of Ruby's streamer friends, but
we love to make our
But-
jokes about our fan singular.
there is a wild card in the mix. Someone that none of us know personally. Who has we've been dying to know how did you find us? And so that ultimately is what we wanted to ask you, Ian, is how'd you find us?
He's ignoring me right now.
And
He's- don't
you know
He's
what?
ignore us.
not watching us right now.
He's still peeing. It's fine.
And,
Oh, he's back.
and it-
Okay.
and if you're someone out there who, I don't know, maybe you watch
Oh.
but you've never commented anything.
No, Fernando.
Wait,
Oh,
he's Fernando?
No, Fernando. I was our original.
Our original one person.
Okay,
Who
Oh
This
my
gives
gosh.
you a wonderful insight into
Uh.
the way that we genuinely track every single fucking comment that shows up because we're very enthusiastic about it. The first complete rando that we knew of that we did not have a single connection to that was active in chat was named Fernando.
Yeah.
And so that became a recurring thing of we would talk about Fernando and ask where they were.
And Fernando was our fan-nando.
Yes,
Fernando.
or it was
It was
for
one.
for Nando,
Oh, yeah,
right?
for
for
Nando.
Nando.
Ian says it was just in the recommended.
Awesome.
Oh, shit.
Like on
Love
YouTube,
that.
we were just
Yeah.
randomly chosen for you by YouTube.
What? And you actually
Yes.
watched? That says
That's
something.
really
And
cool.
he's stuck with
now-
us. Look
And,
at the
and now you're
love.
getting shouted out in the stream.
I
So
love you so much.
That means so much, Ian. Thank you.
That's so cool.
Yeah. It's
Not to
rad as
dissuade
hell.
any of the other
You
people
showed
that
up to
have
movie
chatted.
night? Like, what?
Well, I mean, we love Crash. Crash is always here.
Yep.
We love Brian.
Crash, Brian, we love
We
you
love-
guys.
I don't look at the chat until like days later because I don't want to have any distractions. But
Nick is at a disadvantage if he can't
I know you're
actively
there.
read chat while we're playing.
Yeah.
It's usually me and Snash that are bullshitting with you guys.
Yeah,
And
that's,
Ruby will jump in sometimes.
I try to jump in. Since we've redone how we stream, I can be a little bit more active in jumping in and talk. But before we did that, before I had some help, it was very much what is everything doing? Where's everything going? So we've gotten that a little bit better under control. So.
Ian says they watch a lot of travel videos, and that's
Oh,
usually
nice.
what they get recommended. But we popped up one day while we were live,
Oh,
Oh, shit.
sweet. Love that.
so it really was just chance. That's
and like
exciting.
in the middle of a campaign, which is it's pretty
Very
impressive
challenging.
that you stuck with it.
Yeah.
Thank
And if
you
there's
so
anybody
much.
out there that you don't talk, that's totally fine. We don't mind. Literally, we're only shouting out because we it's curiosity.
How many
Also,
people
I
are
mean-
watching right now? Okay. Okay.
we
Yeah.
we live on praise, so
We do this for attention. I say that for every burlesque show when I'm talking about how to do tips and stuff. We do this for attention. Give us your attention.
And it's funny because like I want to say that yeah, we stream for attention, but truthfully, the whole reason we got together and you guys kind of mentioned it is because you wanted to play. Like I wanted to play. Alex, Matilda were like, we're tired of sitting on our asses. We're gonna play.
We had
Nick's
spent
over here just
3-4 months
I got
holding
yanked
and
in.
waiting to play with the guild we
Yeah.
were trying to do with.
I didn't
And-
want to stream. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I remember when we interviewed you. I was like, "Oh, she's got a setup. She probably streams." And you're like,
But Matilda's
case-
like, I have a group who has a game going. I'm like,
Yeah,
please, just give
In
me some
case
D&D."
it's missing from anyone's personal lore, I found Snash in a smut Discord.
We're very weird and odd
What?
individuals.
Smut, a
Um,
book smut.
Book
Dis-
smut.
I love how they're having to clarify this because they feel that is needed.
no, it's the good kind of smut. It's
Right,
the
right.
intellectual smut.
Oh no,
We're
we're not.
glad you
We're
could
not
join us.
prejudiced.
Yeah.
We'll go with whatever kind of smut. But I did find her specifically in ACOTAR Discord, which I have still never read the books.
Oh, it's
Love
okay. I never finished it. I read the first 2 and then I did never finish.
Oh,
the
I've
series, so I
DNF'd
don't
the
even-
first one 3 times, and Snash still is angry at me about that. It's fine.
I tried to read back through and I DNF'd, and I was like, I
I've
can't.
never DNF'd a book.
Never,
I've
not even
DNF'd a
like when
few.
you were a kid.
When I was a
Wow.
kid, I didn't actually
How-
DNF.
but
but
you,
as I
but
got
like
older-
you have a full-time job and kids. How do you have that much time? What?
I don't read. I don't have time right now to read like I normally.
So
do.
why are you reading bad
Here's-
books?
Here's the joke.
What?
Snatch has never read a book ever. That's why no DNFs.
Because Matilda, it
'Cause-
doesn't take me very long.
Aw. Thanks,
I'm
Time
Ian.
and
just-
expect-
I
I
Still
never learned how to fucking
rather
read.
use that time on a book I enjoy.
So Brian's
Yeah.
laughing at us and Ian's complimenting
Yes.
us, and
Aw, thank you.
just it's
No,
all the
so-
love.
I will say for me, it's cool when a short gets a lot of views and likes on TikTok or whatever, but really all of this stuff is just it gives us more stuff to do and talk about during the week when we're not playing, which
Yep.
that's literally D&D is all I ever want to be doing ever. So
You guys might not think it, but genuinely you have a large impact on our lives just as viewers. And if you comment at all, we're like, oh my god, did you see this person? Like,
And
we
I
have our
think
own cork boards going.
Fernando.
Where is this person from?
and
Fernando
as we
lives in infamy.
as we are streaming
Find
this
it,
live and we're talking to a few of you who are here live, I do want to go ahead and give a shout out to all of those who watch us after we've gone live that come
Yes.
in, whether it's just for a little bit or not. We really appreciate your support as we've continued to grow, and we have increasingly grown much larger than probably all of us thought we would.
Any
and
of
I
us
think we
thought our
continue-
silly little D&D game would ever get
right, and we're probably gonna continue to grow. And we hope to, as we continue to provide, more material, a newer campaign, more opportunities, and that's some of it we're going to actually talk about here in a little bit, because we've got so much good stuff coming up as we end the current campaign and go in towards the new year. We're just really glad for all of you guys being here and supporting us.
And here's the reality: we got 4 people sitting by the phones right now. So for just $16,000 a day, you could change the lives.
We could quit our fucking jobs.
We will stream
D&D all the time.
24/7, full time.
Oh god.
New episodes 3 times a week, fully
I
edited, ready to
gosh.
go.
But no,
There's
genuinely,
people who want to be rich, but there's the people who want to be rich so they can play D&D every single day.
once
Yeah.
a week.
Yes.
Once
That's why
a
I
week
want
at
to win
least,
the lottery.
I get a message from Snash on TikTok saying, "I don't want to be rich for a lot of reasons, but I want to be rich for this reason." And it's something she could
Buying
buy.
armor.
It's
Actually,
usually
that's a
armor.
very valid.
but
very
D&D
valid
in the
point.
castle. Like, it's like that kind of
yeah.
shit. Yeah.
Scotland is our goal someday.
Oh God, yes, we're
Oh.
totally doing that.
But no,
100%.
genuinely, all of
Scott's
the engagement
land.
is amazing. And
Yeah.
I love it. He did, it is his land. It's also my land. It's fine.
Yeah, it's mine too. Funnily enough. Yeah.
Nick, are
Oh,
you
wow.
Scottish by trait or?
Not that I know of. Now, my mom's side, there is some. We don't know. It's like there's we think it's English, but it could be Scottish. We don't know.
I'm Scottish by birth on my dad's side from the Macduff clan. Legitimately, like it's-
My
Oh, you were not born of woman then, eh?
no.
Are you from a tree? You should be a Teora.
Yeah.
Speaking of,
Speaking
So-
of,
Mm.
Y'all,
Let's diverge.
let's
Perfect
talk about what comes after Martyria.
because
Because Martyria is going to end.
Oh,
It's
so sad.
it has to, right? We
only on stream, not in our hearts.
oh, not in our hearts, never, in our minds, never. Months and months and months ago.
There will be a Sitsu tattoo on this arm soon.
Ooh, that's fucking cool.
I'm slowly like this is gonna be a sleeve of all of my really important D&D characters.
I love that
So
so much.
I played a Chartreusian monk, and this is the chartreuse symbol.
Very nice.
It's slowly turning into all my D&D.
Are you gonna do something moon related?
Yeah, absolutely.
Very nice.
But probably the sickle, because I'm slowly basing it on all their weapons.
Yes.
So
All right. Well, all you need to up your game here.
if y'all want to contribute to the tattoo fund, no.
I
yeah,
might
like I said,
actually.
$16,000 a day, and we can make all of our dreams come true.
I will cover my body in D&D art
I
willingly.
would love that. I would love that.
But
It would be brilliant.
backtracking here,
Mm.
when we were still relatively early in our Martyria campaign, people had floated around like, okay, like, well, what's next? Like, do we do a game as the Forebears? And I was like, well, I don't know, because I would feel like Martyria and the story that we're telling and will have told is a complete story, and I don't know how much more of this world I want to see. Part of it's because I haven't built the world largely beyond the city.
What
but-
would happen past the Forebears is
Mhm.
kind of too hard of a question to ask.
Yes, and so back in June or July, I don't remember which, I spent a good deal of time thinking about where's the stream going to go from here. What is the next setting that I would like to present to these wonderful players? And so I spent some time with an idea and shared it with the 4 players, and they've taken it and run with it and made it better and bigger and more beautiful than I could have possibly done alone. And so we want to talk to you a little bit about that tonight. So the world that we will be jumping into for our next campaign is different than Martyria in a lot of ways. Wyrdgard, that's Wyrdgard, Wyrdgard, was once very mundane. A land of various folks, species of various sorts that you might find in any campaign, but a world of petty differences and conflicts of the everyday variety, ones that not so different from our own world, a world without magic ultimately. And then, by means unknown to any individual, that changed with the deluge, where zeal, a substance of pure magic, flooded the lands, eviscerating everything that was in place and creating this fertile, fecund opportunity for growth. And it became a land of intensely high magic, of weirdness, of bizarrity, of fun. And that was the blank canvas that I presented to players. We're broadening. We're not going to be focusing on one city. We're going to explore a world. It's not going to be as buttoned up and low magic as Martyria. It's going to be wild, and it's going to be weird. And because it is a setting that is entirely created by us, it is populated by species that are entirely created by us. I proposed a first draft of these species to the players, but then each of them have changed, some drastically, some in more subtle ways. But we wanted to tell you a little bit more about the world and those types of folks that populate it. So the world is broken up into 5 regions. There are 4 of us. Figure we can each talk about one of them to an extent. And someone's going to double up. But yeah, probably me. So we can start wherever you'd like to start. We'll save. The order is unimportant to me because they're all significant parts of the world.
Well, I think first, one of the most important things to say here is that we were very thankfully given the chance to have such a strong hand in creating this new campaign, this new world that hopefully we'll play many, many campaigns in. Who knows? But Nick really did go kind of above and beyond of giving us a very well fleshed out template to dive into, and it was a sandbox to create with, and he has been so receptive to ideas, and I know he's probably going to be unhappy at whatever, but it's been really wonderful to have that chance as a player to also get to create lore and world building that is inherently important to the structure of the world you're playing in. And then there will be multiple stories built on top of. And that is such a wonderful thing, because how often do you get to make the different races that are in the campaigns you're playing, and the different... It's not just building out factions and coming up with a random, like a one-off deity or a fight between gods. You're creating an entire world, and we were talking about Lord of the Rings as our base earlier, and he basically got 3/4 of the way through the Silmarillion and handed us the pen. And I love that, and I cannot give him enough kudos for that.
Well, and that's only possible because, having played with you all in Martyria, I knew that you would take it and run with it, right? Like I feel like we've developed a lot of trust between us as players and DM, and like we've done a good job collaborating thus far, and now it was just, well, like, how far can we take it?
And yes, Brian, it is Wyrdgard. Foreshadowing, it will be weird.
Yeah, but also weird in that spelling means fate, and so there's shit going on.
Isn't it for Garden of the Faith?
Yeah, I mean, that's like guard as a suffix. It comes from garden, so yeah. And it's this
Okay.
lush, vibrant world. So yeah. So I guess we can start with maybe First Fall, because that is the former cradle of civilization. Do you want to talk about that, maybe, Matilda?
I would love to. My character in our first campaign in this world is going to have a home in First Fall. So I have a lot of ideas about First Fall, but what we know of it so far, that is where Wyrdgard pre-deluge existed. That is the main cities. There is a split peninsula. You have some kind of known on one side, and you have the main capital. And what it turns into post-deluge is we have a large font of history. We have storytelling that can come from it. We have ruins and signals of how the world existed beforehand. And we have a lot of signals of how the world failed to adapt to the deluge. So we're not fully immersed, if that makes sense. It is fully a part of Wyrdgard, of the world, but there's a lot of area that initially was super important. But now, post First Fall, post the deluge, sorry, there's a lot of terms I'm still working on. You have a lot of cities that are not as important as they once were. So you have a lot of ruins. You have a lot of fallen countries, monarchies, figures of import. And then you have this new vibrant life building up on top of it. So you get a wonderful mix of this peninsular land creating on top of the death of another, is one way to phrase it.
If Martyria was a city built on a dead society, First Fall is nations built upon dead nations.
A much larger scale than
Yes.
Martyria, but there is still trade, there are still ports, and there's still traffic, and there's still roadways and causeways and import and export and all of these things, but it is also still the ruins of this once great society that was destroyed by one means or another and replaced with other forms of society on top of what it used to exist.
And other forms of life, because the humans and elves and dwarves and halflings and gnomes of yore are no more, at least not in the way that they were. The people of the antediluvian worlds were supplanted by new life forms. There were life forms that were awakened as zeal flooded into them. There were those that were altered, and there were those that were emergent. And so First Fall is home to a lot of those awakened and altered life forms. Primarily, who populates this space?
The main life form in First Fall as a region are the Effigians. And I hope I'm saying that correctly.
You are.
If I'm not, I am now. The Effigians are the results of the deluge hitting creations of those who came before the First Fall. They are living statues, in short. So it is art and imagination come to life with magic, but without any of the societal implications of the ones who created them. They have their own society, they have their own mindset, they have their own sense of well-being and belonging and community, and how the world should run that has had an impact on Wyrdgard already and will continue to, most likely.
And they have the ineffable remains of what came before them, the peoples that came before them, the people whose image they were sculpted in. And
Or the shadows of what used to exist.
indeed. On the other side of the peninsula, in the newer cities of First Fall, we have a couple of other species. These are the folks that very much at a passing glance would look like the people of any other D&D setting, your elves and your humans and your dwarves, but they were flooded with zeal, altering them at a fundamental level. The flood-touched and the zealoids. And flood-touched, while they might look like an elf or a human, bear strong evidence of their innate magic, and they bear no memory of the antediluvian world. And so you will see some quasi-familiar faces in this world. But on the other hand, there are the zealoids who were flooded with too much zeal or responded to it in more drastic ways and were mutated
Unnatural forms of magic.
from certain people's perspectives. Sure. These are grotesque and mutated and just otherworldly almost, but at their core still possess features of the firstlings of yore. And there is conflict, it seems, brewing between those folks and their stony counterparts in the Effigians. So that is one of our 5 regions, First Fall. If we traveled a bit to the north and the west, we would encounter the sprawling deserts of Koraharoa. Snash, you want to talk about that?
You can't ask me to pronounce that.
Koraharoa.
Karaharoa? Can't say
Koraharoa.
it.
Nope.
Karahoro.
Sorry.
Koraharoa.
Even Ruby said it. Come on.
I had a speech impediment growing up. I had
Say Koraharoa.
Koraharoha.
Hola, Amy Joe.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
Leave me alone.
I'm
All
trying really hard to be serious. I'm so sorry.
Think vast, expanding desert. That pretty much sums it up. Yeah.
Yeah, you nailed it.
Has anybody read Dune?
I mean, that's yeah. I was
It's
gonna
not
say.
Dune.
I'm
Um,
sorry. I just finished Heretics of Dune. My entire life is consumed by this right now. Okay.
Nice.
There's probably some, superficial
It's a
thematic
very-
similarities.
A very thematically basic story. Okay, he didn't go too far.
No.
Everything feels similar because it's very basic. But
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I
Love
got
you,
lost there.
Sash.
No, that's
Love you,
okay.
Sash.
I got.
It's surrounded on each side by mountain chains, and the deserts of Karaharoa are not only inhospitable because of the climb, but because of a feature of Wyrdgard, which is the afterpours, which are these storms charged with zeal that rip through, particularly in the deserts of Karaharoa, and lead to unpredictability, chaos, mutation, destruction, burgeoning newness, and unpredictability. And in the heart of Karaharoa, there is a gem of a city, far from other civilization, a town called Credence, which you can think of as Las Vegas. It is a city of sin and lawlessness, of this great mix of races that you would find elsewhere in Wyrdgard, but coalescing in this wild westy space.
I
Question
love
for you,
hearing
Nick.
you describe this, Nick.
Have you put any interest into Tress of the Emerald Sea?
It's on my radar. I haven't read any Sanderson, but
Okay.
I've heard good things.
I think that maybe you should wait a couple of months after we start Wyrdgard to read it. But
Okay.
I do think that specifically Kararoa would have ties to how Tress of the Emerald Sea is portrayed with the way that magic systems and their oceans work.
Interesting.
Just gonna stick that thought in your brain there.
Okay. Cool. Sounds interesting. You're gonna find all sorts of people in Karaharo, but one of the species that is most prevalent here are Vethran. And just how the Ephigeans were stone turned to sapient life, Vethran are weather systems turned into sapient life. You have these embodiments of gales and snowstorms and thunder and lightning storms made humanoid. And full confession, I drew pretty heavily from the model of the what's it called? Why am I drawing a blank here? Genasi, but with a less elemental plane
More weather.
focus and more weather. Yeah. So they not only have these storm-like features, but have a very real impact on the weather around them, which should be fun. So that's region number 2.
Love that.
Anybody want to talk about any of those?
Yeah, of course.
Or talk about
I will talk about
Ruby, do you
whichever you point me to. I don't care.
Oh, I mean, I've got
Okay.
to talk about the Western Concord because
You've gotta
my
talk about the
best
Western
friends
Concord.
are pretty much from the Western Concord. I'm pretty sure that's where we're both going to be from.
yeah.
The Western Concord is, if we share the map, it's to the left of the desert, across the mountains. You're going to come into the Western Concord, and it's got 3 sovereign territories in a sense that the inheritors and the green folk are in charge of: Timbermore, Gloomwood, and Evermarsh. And kind of just like they sound, that's how they're described. But they're quite a few major cities. There's a capital, Wildgrove, a large city built high into the high Millsteel Woods. So, let's Lord of the Rings reference. Upper trees, am I thinking, Nick? Kind of like Lothlorien. Is that where we're thinking if we need to talk about that? And then there's the Gloomwood, which has the Glow Lily. Brian, you mentioned cast magic mushrooms, growing mushrooms. We're going to talk about glowing mushrooms, just neon colored flora, interesting people. I kind of think about it as, let's talk about nighttime in Avatar, the movie, where everything just lights up. That was my first impression when I read over it. So that's what I think of when I think of, Glow Lily, the capital over there. And of course you have Evermarsh, which is kind of the eastern half of the whole Western Concord, swamplands, and I'm from Mississippi, you guys. So when I think of this, I'm actually going to be thinking of Louisiana, which is right. Why are you laughing? Now I'm confused.
She's laughing at me. She's
you
laughing
too.
at me because I can't spell.
Oh, okay.
Love it.
Love you guys so much. So just like I see your laughing face, I'm like, are they laughing at me or are they laughing at
Because
something
I
they've
fucked
done?
up in chat again. It's fine.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. It happens. I suck at spelling too. So, but when I think of the Evermarsh, because it is swamplands, I live in Mississippi. I live right next to Louisiana, so I know swamplands, and that's what I think. I think of these beautiful trees coming in out of it, reptiles, crocodiles, alligators, cranes flying through. I mean, beautiful sunsets reflected off the water. But, in this area of the Western Concord, each of these regions are connected via waterways. So even though the swampland is what I talked about last, each of these areas is connected through rivers, and it's built around the Lake of Four Rivers and that capital of Wellspring. And it's all connected. And you're going to find a couple of different species that kind of make it their home. And however, is traveled by a little bit of everybody, I think, in Wyrdgard. And Nick can kind of correct me as I'm wrong, but it's very fertile land that I think has opened itself up to a little bit of everybody. But there's going to be pockets of groups of Teora. Did I say that right, Nick?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to probably say this wrong. The Nemesi? Or is it?
Nemasi.
Nemasi. I always get that wrong. That Aussie. So the Teora and the... I'm going to say it wrong again.
Nemasi.
Thank you. I'm just going to let Nick say it. Because for some reason, my brain can't connect it. It'll get there. It'll get there.
You'll hear me say it enough that it'll stick.
And so one is this beautiful range of beings that are all, they're animal based. They're the furries walking around with fluffy tails, or the beautiful lizard tails, or the beautiful glowing wings.
I had so much emotion behind that until you said they're the furries walking around.
I know. I couldn't think of anything.
Promise it's not going to be that.
It's not going to be that. But okay, so there's going to be the felines, the canines, the bears, the pandas, the horses, the zebras, the cattle, the bison, the goats, the sheeps, hawks, eagles, owls, the songbirds. There's going to be the lizards, the turtles. I've already mentioned crocodiles, alligators, the just dolphins and fish and amphibians that...
No, I'm so sorry. All the things that Nala would have hunted.
Oh yeah, let's go backwards and talk about the fact that Nala would have been running around crazy hunting a little bit of all of them.
Sorry, that's all I could think.
Well, and Nala would have been one of them, because the Nemasi are the beings that would have been pre-deluge, the beasts of the air and the land and the sea, but with the influx of Zeal became sapiens and took on these humanoid forms. And their counterparts are the Teora, the plant matter that became sapient and sentient, the vegetal humanoids of Wyrdgard. And the two of these, the Nemasi and the Teora, make up the majority of the Western Concord, but the majority of Wyrdgard in general, because they were everywhere and remain everywhere. Even in the inhospitable deserts of Karaharoa, there is plant life and animal life that flourishes, and therefore Nemasi and Teora that flourish as well.
Just to clarify, even though they're all animals now walking on all, two legs, majority of them, sure, occasionally walk back on their 4 or more legs, they're still just normal animals running around that didn't be affected by the deluge. There's lions, tigers, bears, oh my, that are still out there that are just as much carnivores hunting other non-intelligent life. I don't know what a good way to say that. A
lot of morality we're gonna have to explore.
And that's one of the great mysteries of Wyrdgard is, what is Zeal? How did it get here? Why did some creatures, some beings awaken and others did not?
Yep.
Why did some survive to be altered and some did not?
Why did the trees come to life, in my opinion, when I think of Teora? Why are they suddenly embodied and being able to truly move around? They're not Ents. I didn't think of Ents when I was reading through their description. I literally thought of more of druids, in a sense,
Did you not have Mr. Tumnus in your head saying even some of the trees are on her side?
No, but now he is. Thanks. He's in there telling me that. So yeah, that's the Western Concord, and it's like Nick said, it's open to everybody, but everybody that you would think that comes from the Western Concord, you will find all across the world.
And in sharp contrast to the lush, verdant land of the Western Concord, at the north of the continent, if we went to the far south, we would reach Southreach.
Southreach.
The barren, inhospitable, wintry, brumal tundra of Wyrdgard that is home to only the most hardy and the most resilient, and to one very specific species of folks that arrived after the deluge, and that is the Sieve. The Sieve existed on one of Wyrdgard's moons, Varthus, but as the deluge rocked the system and Zeal flooded everything, things became inhospitable in their homeland on their brumal satellite around the world, and they migrated en masse and made a new home for themselves in the most similar landscape that was available to them, and that was this frigid southern land. What are the Sieve like?
What are the Sieve like specifically?
Yeah,
All right.
because we've got Namasi, which are these animal folk, the Teora, which are plant folk, Effigians, which are statue folk, Vethrin, which are weather system folk.
I mean, the only good bug's a dead bug. What?
Oh no!
I'm the wrong person to ask this. No,
Oh
I'm
my
just
god,
kidding.
does that mean brain bug exists in Wyrdgard?
Canon? What? No.
Mm.
What? No. The Sieve are. If any of you all were traumatized by the legends of Deltora with the Wasp Colony Queen when you were kids in elementary school, that's what the Sieve are. I've never forgotten that book. It's fine.
Apparently, I
This-
must not have either, because I read
it's
those
okay.
books.
I will
Krista.
send you all of those. It's okay. The Sieve are bugs, for lack of a better term. The wasps and bees, they're insects, but they have the segmented bodies and they're like kind of sting, and they're kind of creepy looking, and I don't like them as a person in my own sense. They're a hive-minded like bug. They were moon-based originally, so they're okay with the cold in the Southreach. They're okay with the hive mind in the ice and the snow, and they're very communal, but it's very still distinct from how other life in Wyrdgard is built. So they are still kind of alien. And we're not sure, because we're still building this, we're not sure exactly what will mesh up to be okay with the Sieve and what will mesh up to be very antagonistic with the Sieve.
And you're not likely to find that many of them outside of this frozen land of Southreach. Yeah, you'll probably encounter
Unless
one here
we
or there, but it would
go-
be a notable occasion.
we dive into the snow.
I mean,
Which
I don't
you
really
may just-
want to go to the cold region, but if we got to go to the cold region, we got to go to the cold region.
We gotta
Yeah.
reenact the thing, right?
I mean, I'm just gonna say some people's fur and some
I
people's
mean-
bark might change colors depending on what region we are in the map.
We will have to do an outfit change and shopping
Mhm.
episode prior
Oh,
to.
of course. Gotta
I
get
don't know.
all
Depending on the
suit up.
character you're talking about, you might not be able to do like an outfit change. It might be like as you walk through the land itself encounters change. Because I don't know if you know this, but some creatures that you see that are like snowy white in the winter, it's because of the sun reflecting off the snow that actually like turns their fur that white color. It's not
wild stuff.
like in the summer you'll see them, they'll have like brown pretty fur as they frolic around, but then they'll have like the snow beautiful white. So, and you never know, the same for trees as they lose their leaves and their bark hardens and they hunker down through the snow. You never know what's going to happen, how that might look.
So.
Oh, certainly. There's plant life everywhere, even in the very, very cold.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Switch up.
And so the sea were one of three species that's arrived or emerged in Wyrdgard after the deluge. The others were awakened or altered, like the flood-touched and zealoids. And our final region is home to another of those emergent beings that maybe was there all along, but the people of the surface didn't know, because they are denizens of the Ether Deep. And the Ether Deep is less distinct in terms of its geographical locale within the world, in that it stretches across each of the regions of the continent. It is this series of interconnected and isolated chasms and underground worlds. Not entirely unlike the Underdark of a typical campaign setting, but with notable differences. One being that the Ether Deep, as a result of the deluge, is flooded with ether, some sort of byproduct of this that creates a world that defies gravity. People of all sorts can move throughout the Ether Deep as if it were water, but breathe it as if it were air, which invites all sorts of fun possibilities. And the original occupants of the Ether Deep, and the majority of folks that still live there now, are the Kaleidons, a group that is utterly entwined with and reverent of the crystals of the Ether Deep, and draw power from the 8 principal crystals and worship them as gods. They are pale-skinned with long bat-like ears, flat noses, long claws, and a deep, deep appreciation for all things crystalline. And we'll get to know the Kaleidons more as we go. But there's one group that I know Snash can tell us about that someone may spend an entire lifetime on Wyrdgard without encountering, because these folks are the strangest and the rarest of all. The Rekindled. What are they, Snash?
No one knows.
Precisely.
That's it. That's all you're gonna say.
That's all that's needed to be said, apparently. That's all that needs to be said, y'all. That's it.
No one knows where they came from. No one knows what they are. All they have to know is that basically they are like gray skinned, dead, rekindled. What does that mean?
Nailed it.
I mean seriously, it's they're the spooky spooks. They don't know, like you don't know where they came from. People, they either treat them as like a sign, like a positive sign, like, oh my god, this is like amazing, you're like, right, because they've never seen one before. Or it's the opposite. They're a sign of ill omen. They are, something bad is going to happen. They came from somewhere bad. It's just, you don't know. You will know.
There's just a constant aura of something about them, something otherworldly or just discomforting.
Yes.
About the Rekindled.
Yeah,
But we don't wanna spoil too much.
it's the shadow in the corner that you can't shake, but they're standing next to you. Yeah.
The elephant in the room that never quite goes away.
And we will become quite acquainted with one or more of them.
Very familiar.
So, we threw a lot of information at you. We told you a bit about the world. There's going to be more magic. There's going to be more weird. There's going to be more in general. It's a world that is going to be continually evolving as we build it, and something that we're excited to do after we wrap up with Martyria and have our chance to dive into the behind the scenes stuff with Martyria is we're going to play a game to build this world even more than we already have behind the scenes, by in real time adding to the history, to the mythology, to the culture, to the geography of the world, turn by turn, and make this a place that is even more exciting to explore. So that's a sneak peek at what is to come.
Live action surprise question for Nick here.
Yeah.
Should we allow chat to have an input on Wyrdgard?
I think that's fun. Yes, but you should recognize that, like with players, I do reserve the right to veto. So if you say, just kidding, all the zeal's gone, I'm going to say, no, fuck you.
But if you
That
are in
could-
chat, if you're watching, if you want to be here when we do our we're gonna do a session of adding, each person gets to add things to all of the world. If you want to be here for that chat, we'll take you into account.
It could be a cool thing too if you want to drop ideas in Discord.
Yeah.
We
us up.
can look over those.
If you have lore you want to throw in, we can workshop that and chat with you about it.
We'll pop a map down so you can visualize some of these places, and bring you along for the ride. Excited to explore something new. But before that, so excited to bring a resolution to stories of our Fateful Four in Martyria. Da, da, da. When
We're
will
all-
we be playing next? We can guarantee it's not going to be next Wednesday.
Yeah, the holidays are coming up. I hope everyone has good plans with family and friends and is able to have a good, enjoyable Thanksgiving if you're celebrating.
Most likely it's going to be the 4th, I think.
Which gives us enough time to really percolate on the end of your character's story.
Mm.
That also, Ian, as you said, Nick has been cooking. That gives you time to add in things if you want on the Discord. Give us ideas. Give us things you want to see in the new campaign. Fuck it. Give a character of yourself.
Oh,
We'll
man.
find a way to make you part of the story.
Oh, I mean, I've already got plans. There's going to be a character named Crash. There's going to be someone named Vance.
I believe it.
It's got to
gonna be
happen.
great.
You know?
We'll bring
loyalty
y'all
shall-
in.
Shall be rewarded. Brian, we gotta do something with that one.
Change it up a little bit.
Just go backwards. All the names back. Those
There we
have
go.
indie names.
Nairb.
Near.
Nerb. Yeah. Brian,
Love it.
make your name less normal. Thank you.
Just be a little
Oh,
less normal.
goodness.
It's
So
fine.
sorry.
Yeah.
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 Any other
Yeah.
surprises we want to drop on them?
Oh, well, do we want to drop that surprise? Is it too soon to drop that surprise?
We're all getting married to each other.
Oh, God. No. I love
Just
you, Squirrel,
kidding.
but no.
You
Oh.
haven't accepted polyamory that much.
Yeah.
We are gonna be seeing each other in person for the first time ever in
What?
February.
Yeah.
And we'll bring you along for the ride. Remotely, of course.
Yeah, we're gonna meet each other.
It's
Yeah, we're gonna
weird.
see who's tall and who's not.
Yeah. That's really what's going
We're
to happen.
going to get the chance
That
to physically assault our
has
DM.
turned into the biggest point of contention of trying to figure out who's taller and
Oh, we no.
I mean, we technically already all know, but you'll get to see it live on probably either a TikTok or a YouTube short.
But yes,
It's going to be advertised.
I don't think you all
once we
know how
get
tall
together.
I am.
we don't. Nick never gave his height.
I thought you did give your
No,
answer.
he didn't last
Do you
time.
know
He
it?
didn't.
Oh.
You all
We
postulated.
finally have
Mm.
on TikTok, in case you don't follow us on the Clock app, we finally have the ability to stream live on TikTok, which means in February, when we do our in-person for the win, we'll be together for a weekend, and Snash and I will have control of a TikTok live stream in person with everybody.
Yeah, it'll be
And
fun.
that will be really chaotic, and I hope you're all along for the ride.
I don't even know how this is all gonna work out when we all get together. Like from a stream perspective, we're just gonna make it work. Scott and I already been talking about it. We're just like,
It's
gonna
okay.
happen.
I won't talk for the first 24 hours. You guys will be fine with that, right?
Which
Well,
is
here's
going to
the
be really
problem.
fun when she picks me up from the airport.
I was gonna say that the
finally.
problem is with that is she's gonna pick up that one from the airport, and they're gonna be together. And it's just gonna be like,
Matilda,
she's gonna be
all the
talking.
talking.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to be really tired of me by the end of the night. It's fine.
nah,
But
Nah.
we'll be tired of each other by the end of the weekend.
no,
Yeah.
we're gonna record live weekend, so we're not gonna immediately stream it on YouTube, but we will very highly likely have TikTok live stream for silly moments, cooking food, etc. And then we will be in early Wyrdgard campaign
Yeah.
Yes,
for
we
that
shall.
session. Potentially a throwback Martyria session. We had talked about that idea.
Yeah, it's going to be all sorts of fun stuff. You might see some one shots. You might see some 2 shots, some 5 shots. Who knows?
If anything, you can learn that if you
And I'm not-
meet strangers on the internet to play make believe, that they're actually real people, and then you can meet up in person.
Or I will live stream getting beat up in an airport in a strange city. It's fun.
It's all been an elaborate
that's
ruse
all
to
it
beat up
is.
you, Matilda.
It's 100%.
No,
The whole thing.
Countless hours that we've poured into this just for that.
do not show this stream to your children because we are a terrible example of you should make friends with strangers on the internet. And
Yeah, we always
Yeah.
edit this for a reason. Like we always make sure there's restrictions, but
it's fun.
yeah, there's gonna be some drinks. I'm sure there'll be some alcohol. There's gonna be plenty of good food. Menu. looks
There will be a
interesting.
ridiculous menu posted
Just want
either
to follow us.
immediately before or right after the fact.
There might be some gifts exchanged. There might be some
Are we all gonna dress up?
cosplaying.
I'll wear some shirts.
Nick, please.
I'll bring my
dress
favorite shirt.
as Gobblefunk,
Oh, he already did that
And
once.
they've done that.
Yeah.
but in person.
no.
I'll think about it.
Anyways, it's gonna be a blast, and we
It'll
will
be
be
great.
sharing it with you.
There will probably be at least a couple hours of in-person Q&A about Martyria, as Ian just mentioned. We'll go through the Q&A beforehand, but there will be some in-person chat.
For
We
sure.
will include our viewers in what we get up to while we're in person, whether that be through TikTok, through posts, through photos, whatever. We will finally get an opportunity to do that sort of thing.
I feel like
You're
we
gonna-
should go
you're gonna
live
love
while
it.
we're cooking. That'd be
You're gonna
fun.
be so jealous that you're not there. Gosh.
Oh yeah, you're gonna want to be joining us 100%.
Oh my gosh, what if we totally skyrocket and then we can have conventions?
Okay. Now Snash is
Now I'm
moving,
delusional.
That's
really
March
far.
goal, right?
I know it's
Far
close
in
to your
the future.
bedtime, Snash.
I've been up
but
for 24 hours,
We
guys.
need to-
I
we need
know
to put
it's-
Snash to sleep. We need to put
close
Snash
to the sleep time for Snash, but
All right. Well, it's been a blast. This has been lots of fun.
Nick
Has been.
specifically, Ian has requested that you are Gobblefunk for the entire live meeting. So I feel
No.
like you gotta listen to the viewer here.
No,
Alrighty,
no,
yeah.
no, 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 no.
What else do you want?
He has to be gobble hunk.
Gobble
Oh,
Hunt.
there we
Oh.
go.
Oh, that's
I gotta get in
That's a good
shape.
choice. That's a good choice.
just Gobblefunk voice, shirt off.
That's
Well,
the
we-
cosplay.
I could do a more accurate OG Gobblefunk cosplay.
Yes, yes. Just like
Skinny
eating.
arms, big belly.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
yes. It's gonna be fun, anyways. But that's kind of the future for us.
Nick,
And
that was asked for. Please do that by chat.
No,
The viewers
I am a
want it.
teacher.
We also
gotta
have
have
a
some
press
decorum.
cooking with For the Win. So I mean,
Yeah.
that's definitely
Well,
doable.
I'll bring pasties. You can cover your nipples.
Oh, great. That was my
we're getting
concern.
way off track.
I will
Thanks.
paint them as the face of
We
Gobble
love you
Funk.
guys a
You
lot.
can't see it.
We're gonna shut it down so everybody go to sleep, especially Snatch, who seems to be
Yeah.
Leave me alone.
delusional.
I'm excited.
She's been up
She's
so
really
long.
up so long. But we'll be back after Thanksgiving. So be looking for us after Thanksgiving as we
Nick,
continue our
someone
adventure in
specifically
Martyria.
in chat just commented the song "There Goes My Hero."
We're sorry you have to wait while Thanksgiving's happening, but we'll see you after
Oh,
Thanksgiving.
goodness.
So everybody say bye stream, and I'm gonna change the views.
Bye,
Gobble,
stream.
gobble.
We love you. Gobble gobble.
Oh my god.
Merry Gobblemas.
Have a
Oh.
wonderful Gobble Hunksmas.
Have a gobble hunksmas.
Oh my gosh. I can't even find what's going on here.
Yeah, we've told her enough. She can't.